Good evening. I'd like to call the March 12th meeting to order. Madam City Clerk, could you call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Here.
Councilmember Francis, Councilmember Tanaka, Councilmember Love.
Thank you. At this time, we are now retiring the closed session, and we hope to be done by 7:30 and be back. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a note for the record that Mayor Serta will be here. She's running late and will be here at 7:15.
Okay, thank you, Madam City Clerk.
Good evening. No. Good evening, everyone. We're ready to begin tonight's Gardena City Council meeting. So if everyone can please silence your cell phones. Okay, and we are live, correct? We're live now? Okay. So we're ready to begin tonight's Gardena City Council meeting for Tuesday, March the 12th, 2024. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Serta,
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Here.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Here.
Councilmember Francis,
Here.
Councilmember Love.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Tonight we had closed session. Madam City Attorney, do we have anything to report from closed session?
Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, tonight the council met with regards to item 2A. Discussion was held, but no reportable action was taken at this time. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next, we're going to adhere to the agenda, and we're going to go to Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, that will be led by Miss Emma Casanova from 156th Street Elementary School. And immediately following that, we will have our invocation by Pastor Dwight Dudley. So at this time, everyone, please stand, and Emma, if you can come forward.
Please stand, face the flag, put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please continue standing.
That was nothing but perfect. I love those little guys. They're really awesome in every way. I just wanted to share quickly a scripture, and it just makes me, when I see this council and the mayor and the diversity and all of you having one single thought and one single direction, and that's the city of Gardena. And you guys work together. Amos 3 says, unless two are in agreement, how can they walk together? And that's what you guys do. And from the audience side, watching you guys, it's wonderful what you do, bringing the children in here to do the Pledge of Allegiance and starting your business with prayer is really what God says for us to do. And he says, let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. But if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God. And this council has wisdom, and that there's so many of you from different places of life and education levels and one heart to serve this community. Father, I thank you for this council and the mayor and the opportunities we have to hear the Pledge of Allegiance, to come here and lift up this meeting in prayer. Father, we pray that in one accord, Father, we'll stand together and that we'll make this city awesome in every way. And I know, Father, as the business grows and things come together, even coming this spring for the events that'll take place in the city of Gardena, I pray, Father, that you'll give them great opportunity and wisdom to meet the people, to minister to the people, and bring in those special events that bring community together. So, Father, we thank you that we have the opportunity to be together as a family, Father, under your direction and leadership, as you've chosen and handpicked this council to conduct your business here in the city. And we thank you, we praise you for them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah. You may be seated. Okay, if I could have our pledger come back to the front. So tonight's Pledge of Allegiance was led by Emma Casanova, who's in the 3rd grade. She attends 156th Street Elementary School. Emma loves being a Girl Scout in her community. She also enjoys designing her own comic stories, and her favorite subject in school is math. So, Emma, can you tell us who you brought with you tonight?
I brought my mom with me tonight.
Your mom with you? Where's your mom at? Right there. All right, let's give her a round of applause for bringing you out tonight. You did a great job today. Emma, would you like to say anything else? That's okay. You don't have to. I saw you were selling Girl Scout cookies to Councilmember Tanaka, and just so everybody knows, it's Girl Scout season cookie time here. So you can raise your hand so everybody knows to buy from you before you leave. So
I liked doing the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
And we also do it every day at school, too.
that's awesome. Okay, well, very good. Well, thank you again. Let's give her a round of applause. She did a great job. And we look forward to seeing you come back again. And again, remember, she's selling Girl Scout cookies. All right, thanks again. Okay, so also tonight we had our invocation that was led by Pastor Dwight Dudley, who is the pastor at Calvary Chapel South Bay. That is located at 19300 South Vermont Avenue. Dwight Dudley has served as a pastor and minister leader at Calvary Chapel South Bay for over 20 years. He is deeply involved with working with others for the sake of the gospel by actively counseling people in God's word. He continues to be instrumental in the planning and visitation of those ailing who are at home, in hospitals, and in convalescent and care homes. He has a heart to pray and bring comfort to those who are sick and to families who have lost their loved ones. Currently, Pastor Dwight oversees and actively serves in a military ministry, Servant Heart Ministry, his Healing Hands Ministry, and Security Ministry. Pastor Dwight has been happily married to his wife, Robin, for 40 years and is the proud father of 5 children and 7 grandchildren. His background of being a former United States MV Recon Marine who served in Vietnam as a construction builder and in security has prepared and served him well in the various aspects of his ministry at Calvary Chapel South Bay in Gardena, California. So, Pastor Dudley, would you like to say anything? You can come to the microphone just so it's recorded there.
Yeah, I love you guys and what you do here in the city. It's awesome. And that's a lot of stuff to say about one guy. But anyways, I guess I've been a busy boy. But I love you guys, and what you're doing here is over the top awesome in every way, especially the little kids. Being a Vietnam veteran, I'll tell you what, these little guys just bring tears to my eyes every time I hear them. So keep up the good work.
All right. Thank you again for leading us in an invocation. Everyone, please give him a round of applause as well. Okay, so next we have a presentation that's from AT&T. It's an update from the Los Angeles and South Bay External and Legislative Affairs Manager, and that is Ms. Mackenzie Neely Wright, who will be coming forward. Hi, welcome to our City Council meeting.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So happy to be here. Good evening to everybody. My name is Mackenzie Neely Wright. I'm honored to have the opportunity to introduce myself to the City of Gardena. Thank you to Council Members Wanda Love and Rodney Tanaka for the invitation. And it is a pleasure to see you again, Madam Mayor, as well as to meet you, Mayor Pro Tem, and the additional council members. I am the External and Legislative Affairs Manager for the City of Gardena, along with all of the South Bay except Hawthorne. That's a long story, as well as Mid and South Los Angeles for AT&T. Our purpose at AT&T is connecting people to greater possibility through our fiber, AT&T Fiber, 5G and FirstNet. And I'm happy to report that we have a connection out from FirstNet with the department, the Department of Transportation. So we would like to continue that and grow that going forward. In addition to what we do at AT&T, we've also been very much invested in the City of Gardena. We've invested over $40 million so far, and we're continuing to grow our 5G network as well as our fiber network in the city. My goal today is simply just to establish a relationship with the city as we continue to strengthen our network and modernize our network in the area to serve our customers and to better and also to serve as your point of contact. So if you have questions from constituents related to anything from an AT&T matter, please send them my way or give me a call, and I'm happy to answer those questions. But part of this relationship also includes being able to provide updates in a form such as this. And so about a month ago, some of your residents may have received a notice from AT&T regarding an application for a carrier of last resort relief. And so I wanted to just kind of provide some context so that you can have an opportunity to know what that means and what it doesn't mean, and give a little bit more information. So the long and short of it is that AT&T last year in the spring filed an application with the CPUC requesting for relief from carrier of last resort relief. What that does not mean is that AT&T is taking away landlines from customers. It's simply asking that in areas where there are other alternatives present, that AT&T not be the carrier of last resort. And in areas where there is no alternative present, that meaning voice over IP or wireless, that we have other alternative, that we will continue to serve at the carrier of last resort until additional alternatives are in place. And so I wanted to give just a little bit of history lesson, and I apologize to Councilmember Tanaka. He's heard me say this like 2 or 3 times now. But essentially, AT&T in the 70s was deemed a monopoly, and it was broken up into several baby bells in the 80s. And so then there was the Ma Bell and all these other bells that came into existence. But the problem was is that they weren't able to provide the services to customers that they needed from a long distance and other things that were needed. I wasn't there at the time. This is before my time, but apparently that was what was going on. And so in the 90s, the federal government then decided we will allow AT&T to come back to be a monopoly and put a regulation that would allow them to not have any competition in their service territory. And I want to be clear about that. The entire state of California is not a service territory of AT&T. There are parts of it that are not, but Gardena is, so we'll focus on what is. And so AT&T was fine with that. They were able to compete in their market, not compete, but they didn't have any competition, but they were able to serve their market, and it was over 1 million plus 13, 15 million people. Almost every home had a landline and a copper line specifically. So we fast forward now to 2024. We have less than 1 million people utilizing the copper network, but the cost doesn't change. It will remain the same whether it's 100% utilized or as it is 7% utilized. And so that's where this regulation comes into play. Can we have an opportunity to not be the carrier of last resort? And there's a part that I missed. At some point in the 2000s, the federal government took away the regulation on monopolies and allowed for competitors to come into the market. And so you would have a competitor that would come in and say, I cost $42, where AT&T cost $50, and those customers would go that way. And while that was fine, AT&T didn't have the opportunity to leave those markets. They had to stay. And then what would happen is ultimately those telecom companies would fail, or they would get acquired by someone else, or anything, or AT&T. But ultimately, AT&T had to stay there and maintain there. And so simply what this application is doing is just taking away that regulation, and it's caused a little bit of fear. And we've done this in 20 other states. This isn't something that we're doing for the first time. And just to give you a time frame of how this all works, it is about modernizing the network and moving away from copper, as it's underutilized and very expensive to maintain. But we are vigorously building our fiber network. And so in the state of Oklahoma, the Kohler application was approved or relieved in 2014. We are now in the process of being able to, after FCC studies, be able to decommission copper landlines. And so that's just kind of an update about what AT&T is doing, and I want to give an opportunity for questions.
Are there any questions or comments at this time? Anybody?
I have a question.
Hold on. I'm sorry. You had a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Councilmember Francis.
I'm very interested because I have a landline. I have had one for a very long time. And so I'm clear. And the reason I have a landline is because many years ago there was an earthquake, Northridge quake, and I had cell phone. I had cell phone at the time. Anyway, there's been a couple issues going on. I had cell phone, but when the power goes out, my cell phone stopped working because I ran out. Battery died, but my landline kept working. So that's my concern. And also, many of our seniors have landlines, and they don't have cell phones. Or they have cell phones and they use them only for an emergency, if you understand what I'm saying to you. So, to be clear, landlines are not going away.
Are you asking me or telling me?
I'm asking you.
Okay, I'm making sure you have a question.
That's my question. I had to, I see it on this side, I'm council member, so I got to tell you the reason I'm asking the question that I'm asking.
Yes,
so, just to be clear, landlines are not going away, they're going to stay.
So, thank you for the question, Councilmember Francis. So, it's a yes and a no. I completely understand. I'm happy to report I do remember the Northridge earthquake. And that was, I don't know, almost 30, close to 30 years ago.
I'm not that old. I was a young child then. about 15.
That's fair. 27 years ago.
But what I'm saying is that our technology has way since advanced since then. But what this application is doing is not taking away landlines, or copper lines. It's modernizing it. We're not taking phones out of the home. We're modernizing how the phones are in the homes. So currently your phone comes out of a jack in the wall. Now the phone line would come through the modem. And there are backup batteries in place to keep those modems online when the power goes out. And I think that's a bit of a misunderstanding is people think, okay, well, copper never fails. It does fail. And there have been opportunities where it hasn't always stayed online. And when we had rain and a lot of changes, like a lot of rain and flooding recently, our copper line has not been able to sustain that. And then we have to go out and maintenance it and service it rather. And it's expensive to maintain because they don't even make that copper anymore and people are stealing it. So we have things in place, which I'm happy to send about public safety and the things that we're doing to make sure that people are connected in a power outage or emergency.
So I also have my phone jack, and when I pick up my landline, I say hello. Everything works as normal. It's just that how it works changing.
The application wouldn't change anything now, but eventually we would want to take that cord from the jack and move it to the modem. That would be the only difference for you.
All right.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, you had a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Haven't been doing this in a while. One meeting off and you forget how to work everything. So the question regards to later on when we change the actual copper jacks to the new modem jacks, are you going to mail those to everybody that has a copper line and with instructions on how to do the install themselves, or will they have to call AT&T to do that conversion?
Oh, there would absolutely be customer service to walk the customer through the experience and or send them out. But we're not, that's very much further down the line. This is not what this application is asking for at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much. You were very, very informative, and I didn't think anybody had any other providers besides AT&T. I thought they were the only ones. I'm just kidding. I just like them. I'm with them. So
Thank you.
But thank you again for that very informative update.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Okay. So next we have a Gardena Events video presentation. Do we have that ready? Okay, as you can see, we have a busy calendar coming up here. Okay, so before we go any further, I'm going to do a little quick housekeeping here. For some of you who've never been to our meeting, I'm also told tonight we actually have about 6 students who are here from San Pedro High School. Don't worry, I'm not going to embarrass you guys. But we have students that are here tonight getting credit. They have to observe a city council meeting. So welcome to our city council meeting. And I just want to put it out there to any of the teachers or principals who are watching this meeting that at any time, your students are welcome to come to our meeting and get credit by learning a little bit more about government here. So we definitely welcome that. So a couple of quick things. So tonight, if you would like to participate in tonight's meeting, you can participate the following ways. The first way is people can view our meeting live on Spectrum Channel 22 or online at youtube.com/City of Gardena. So in case anybody wants to go home tonight, you can finish watching the meeting on YouTube. You can also participate prior to the meeting by emailing our Deputy City Clerk at publiccomments@cityofgardena.org by 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting and write public comments in the subject line. Or the third way is you can attend our meeting in person, as all of you are doing. Public comments. The City Council will hear from the public on any item on the agenda or any item of interest that is not on the agenda at the following times. If it's an agenda item, at the time the City Council will consider the item or during oral communications. If it's a non-agenda item, we will listen to it during oral communications, and if it's a public hearing, at the time the public hearing is listed on the agenda. If you wish to address the City Council, please complete a speaker request form and present it to the City Clerk or Sergeant at Arms. Please raise your hand so they know who you are. Thank you. You will be called to the podium by name when it's your turn to address the Council. The City Council cannot legally take any action on any item not scheduled on the agenda. Such items may be referred for administrative action or scheduled on a future agenda. Members of the public wishing to address the City Council will be given 3 minutes to speak. We also have standards of behavior that promote civility at all of our public meetings. We treat everyone courteously. We listen to others respectfully. We exercise self-control, and we give open-minded consideration to all viewpoints. We focus on the issue and avoid personalizing debate, and we embrace respectful disagreement and dissent as a democratic right, inherent components of an inclusive public process and tools for foregoing sound decisions. So I'd just like to thank all of you in advance for your attendance as well as your operation. With that being said, we're going to move on to proclamations. We have the American Red Cross Month, which is this month, March of 2024. We have a couple of people here today accepting a proclamation here. We have Ms. Valerie coming forward here to accept that. And I'm going to read the proclamation prior to, come on up while I read it here. It says, whereas more than 140 years ago, the American Red Cross was established as a humanitarian organization guided by several fundamental principles, including humanitarian, impartiality, and independence, to provide service to those in need, regardless of race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation, or citizenship status. And whereas every year the American Red Cross responds to an average of more than 70,000 disasters across the country, from small home fires to massive disasters. Last year, crises including floods in atmospheric rivers in California, typhoons, Mawar in Guam, Hurricane Ian in Florida, and the devastating wildfire in Hawaii. And whereas the Red Cross has a long history of helping our neighbors in need, the Greater Long Beach and South Bay chapter assisted with 177 local disasters, serving 457 clients, including 103 children. In the past year alone, and helped save lives throughout home fire campaigns, and whereas the American Red Cross shelters, feeds, and provides emotional supports to victims of disaster, supplies 40% of the nation's blood, teaches skills that save lives, provide international humanitarian aid, and supports military members and their families. Whereas the month of March is a special time to recognize and thank the Red Cross, volunteers and donors who give their time and resources to help others. We are pleased to report that there is an upcoming blood drive with the Gardena Police Department on Saturday, March the 30th, 2024 at Rush Memorial Gym. So at this time, I proclaim March 2024 to be American Red Cross Month and encourage the citizens of our community to volunteer, donate needed funding, take a class, or give blood to show the support of this organization and its noble humanitarian mission. So at this time, would you like to say anything?
Thank you so much, Mayor and City Council. My name is Amy Papageorgis, and I'm the Executive Director of the Greater Long Beach and South Bay Chapter. And I'm here this evening with Valerie Lodium, who is a colleague of mine in the Red Cross, but also a very avid part of your city here in Gardena. This is just an opportunity for us to say thank you. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy agenda to recognize March is Red Cross Month. Our chapter is very busy serving the community, as you eloquently read, responding to home fires each and every day, helping people that have been displaced in the most urgent time of need by having ongoing blood drives in the city of Gardena. So thank you to the Chief of Police for spearheading those life-saving events. So I just wanted to say thank you. We really appreciate being here before you this evening, and enjoy the rest of your meeting. Valerie, would you like to say a couple of words?
Just really quick, it's just truly an honor, first of all, to be a Human Services Commissioner for the City of Gardena, and my day job being with the American Red Cross. We're here to serve. I'm the Regional Director of Development, so I handle all of the fundraising for the Red Cross, so if you're so inclined. But we truly, truly appreciate the City of Gardena and all that you do for the Red Cross. We're here for you at any time you need us. The Red Cross will be here. So thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. Give her a round of applause, please. Okay. So next on the agenda, we have our Women's History Month, which is March 2024 proclamation. And this reads as follows. Women's History Month, March 20 of 24. In 1987, Congress established March to be Women's History Month to recognize the achievements of American women of every race, class, and ethnic background that have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation. The Women's History Month theme for 2024 is Women Who Advocate for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. This theme honors women who are committed to embracing everyone and excluding no one in our common quest for freedom and opportunity. They know that people change with the help of families, teachers, and friends, and that young people in particular need to learn the value of hearing from different voices with different points of view as they grow up. So at this time, I proclaim March 2024 to be Women's History Month in the city of Gardena and encourage all citizens to recognize and honor the spirit, leadership, vital and enduring contributions of women in our community in California and throughout our nation. Okay, so with that being said, let's move on to our appointments here. We don't have any for tonight. Thank you. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody from the public wishing to speak on the consent calendar?
No, we do not, Madam Mayor.
Okay. At this time, is there any items that anybody would like to discuss separately? No? Okay. That being said, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar as is? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Tanaka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Francis?
Yes.
Councilmember Love?
Yes.
And Mayor Serta?
Yes. Okay, next up is item number 10A. It's regarding the Planning and Environmental Quality Commission action sheet here. This is from the February 2024 meeting. This is in regards to the appeal of the revocation of the site plan review for item number 4-15. At this time, no action is needed because they are still continuing the meeting on item number 10A here. So at a later time, this will come back up. Next up is item number 10B, also the February 20th meeting. This is also a Planning Commission consider a recommendation for City Council to adopt ordinance number 1866, making changes to the Gardena Municipal Code, implementing the program set forth for the city's sixth cycle 2021 through 2029 housing element and changes required by state law, and making funding that finds the ordinance is exempt from the provisions of CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15061B3. The Planning Commission vote was 5-0, recommending the City Council for the adoption of ordinance number 1866 and make findings that the adoption of the ordinance is exempt from CEQA pursuant to guidelines section 15061B3. No action is needed. This item will be brought to the City Council in this meeting here. The March 5th meeting was canceled, and now we move on to oral communications. Madam City Clerk, do we have any oral communications that came in before, in between the last meeting and this one here?
Yes, we do, Madam Mayor. We have received, excuse me, sorry. So we have received 2 oral communications, which have been distributed and are part of the agenda packet and have been noted for the record.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have 3 people for oral communications tonight. Just want to remind everybody that you do have 3 minutes to speak. When the yellow light comes on, that will let you know that your 2 minutes are up, and when the red light comes on, that will let you know that your 3 minutes are up. We do ask that you please respect the time of that. If you're in the middle of your last sentence, I'll let you go ahead and finish it, but we do ask that you conclude at that time. We're going to begin tonight first with Sherelle Diggs. Then second, we're going to go with Marquise Carlos, and then Travis Hernandez. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, and I appreciate you guys taking my time or taking your time to listen to me. I have 2 things that I'm concerned about. One is crime. After seeing a male person get attacked the other day, that literally scared me. So my question to you is there something that we can do as a citizen if we see something like this, aside from calling the police? I mean, this gentleman was literally getting attacked. So do we do it as a citizen? I don't have a concealed weapon carry. I don't have that, but I'm working on it. But I'm just wondering if we, as a citizen, is there anything that we can do to help or aid? And if so, maybe that's something that you guys can communicate to the community.
So generally our oral communications, we don't respond. But because this was something that hit the news and was very big, I'm going to ask Chief Safel to come forward here and just respond to this, only because this is something that made the news really big. But in general, we do not respond during oral communications. But I think this is a safety thing that I think the community as a whole might need to know about, and I'll let the chief respond to this.
So in short, that incident occurred at 172 in Hoover, which is on the east side of Vermont. So it wasn't within our jurisdiction that we could respond to. My understanding that person is in custody now, and there are several cases that are following that person. So that individual case is handled. But as far as what you can do to protect yourself, we have community education series that we put on at the city to talk about some self-defense. We talk about ways to help the situation, but not get involved. As we say all the time, it may look like the suspect is maybe a little person or something that you could handle on your own, but the reality of it is that if they're in a fight, they may be fighting because of something you're not aware of. Maybe their history, they know if they get caught, they're looking at some serious penalties for that, so they're fighting at a different level than you are, and now you are inserting yourself into a situation that you just aren't familiar with. Okay. So we want everyone to be safe. But I think the most important thing is to take advantage of the learning opportunities that we put on a regular basis. You can contact your district lieutenant for those. Those are ongoing. As far as the CCW issue is, when you go through those training classes, they also tell you what incidents you can become involved in and which ones you shouldn't, and the potential liabilities of that, both physical harm and then the financial situation if somebody is shot. So that is something that you are educated as you go through that process, and to help you make better decisions of whether you even want to do that or not. But again, simply stated, take advantage of the education that we offer on a routine basis and get involved with your police department. And luckily, we do that all the time. Thank you.
Sir. Appreciate that.
Okay.
I just have one other really quick.
Okay.
I think Gardena needs to show us evacuation routes. We're close enough to the ocean. I think we just need to do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have Marquez Carlos.
Carlos Marquez.
I'm sorry, did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. My name is Carlos Marquez, and I'm a mobile homeowner. And I just have a question or guidance to see what I could do for it, because the rent is going wild. As you know, there's a lot of problems out there with homeless. And it seems like our park is heading that way. like when we had the pandemic, a lot of people lost their homes because we didn't get any breaks. Increases, they go every year. And now it's getting like to a point where well, I guess you probably know about the food, how expensive everything is out there. And on top of that, we get our increase every year, no matter what. And people is going homeless because of this.
Yeah.
And I would like to know if there's any guidance or anything that the city of Gardena could do regarding, the residents going homeless like this. It's the home is ours, the land is theirs. But see, still, like every year it goes up. I mean, you're gonna lose it. One day you're gonna lose it. And I don't think it's fair for the residents of Gardena to end up like that when you think you already got a home for life.
Okay.
And I'm real concerned on that. And, I've been seeing a lot of people that they have enough money just not even to pay the rent. They get help from their sons or relatives. They can't even afford the rent.
Yeah.
Because they're on fixed income. With some of these people, they got $800 a month coming in. Our rent is $1,000 right now. And it keeps going up. So that was my question. In case there's nothing the city can do, guide me to where to start.
Okay. We have your contact information here. I'll have our office get in contact with you tomorrow and maybe give you some suggestions.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Travis Hernandez?
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Travis Hernandez. I'm the manager over at Massa Satao Library. I'm here to give you updates on programming for both Gardena libraries. Over at Massa Satao, this Thursday from 4 to 5 p.m., we're having the Wonders of Wildlife program, learn about our furry friends, get up in close and personal with some live animals for kids ages 6 to 12 with parent and caregivers. On Thursday, March 21st, from 4 to 5 p.m., we're celebrating Women's History Month with Say It Loud, Say It Proud. Come learn about trailblazing female activists and create your own megaphone to amplify your voice for kids ages 6 to 12. On Wednesday, March 27th, from 4 to 5 p.m., join us for Design Your Own Bird and learn more about our feathered friends and the special programming featuring the Barnstall Friends of the Junior Arts Center and Design Your Own Bird. Again, for ages 6 to 12. Over at Gardena Mamie Deer Library, next door, this Thursday, March 14th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., Mamie Deer is hosting a free vaccine clinic where you can get your free flu shot or COVID-19 vaccination / boosters for people 6 months or older. On Thursday, March 14th, from 3 to 4 p.m. at Mamie Deer, celebrate Women's History and learn about Mae Jemison, the first African-American woman in space. They'll create a paper spaceship and make greeting cards to celebrate a woman in your life for ages 5 to 12. And then on Fridays at Mamie Deer, they have Smarty Pants Story Time from 10:15 to 10:45 a.m. It's a school readiness story time for kids 2 to 5 year old with their parents. And on Wednesday, March 27th, from 5:30 to 6:30, come make your own beach-inspired coasters. All materials are provided, and that's going to be for adults at the Mamie Deer Library. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so next we're going to move on to departmental items. Excuse me, item number 13A, Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 13A is a public hearing of ordinance number 1865, amending chapter 18.60 of the Gardena Municipal Code and sections of 5.08.170, 8.16.030, and 8.16050 relating to temporary use permits and temporary event permits, and amending section 5.04.160 and 5.04.278 of Title V relating to permits, and finding the ordinance is category exempt from CEQA pursuant to the common sense exemption set forth in guidelines section 15061B3 and section 15304 for minor alterations to land. Resolution number 6659 is adopting an application fee for temporary use and temporary event permits and finding that the fee is exempt under Public Resources Code Section 21080B8 and SECO Guidelines Section 15273. City staff has prepared a draft ordinance that will establish an administrative process to allow temporary uses and temporary events to be held in the city subject to reasonable rules and regulations. The draft ordinance has been prepared to incorporate new regulations for temporary events into Chapter 18.60 of the City Zoning Code relating to temporary uses. On January 16, 2024, the Planning and Environmental Quality Commission passed a resolution by a 5-0 vote recommending the City Council adopt Ordinance number 1865 and make the finding for an exemption from CEQA. Most recently, on March 5, 2024, staff received an email from the YMCA located at 1000 West Artesia Boulevard, who is currently hosting a walk-up food distribution event in conjunction with a local nonprofit church. In consideration of this, staff recommends an update to ordinance number 1865. Should council approve the update, staff is requesting to be directed back to the Planning Commission with the updated ordinance for their recommendation. Resolution number 6659 would adopt an application fee for temporary use and temporary event permits. Financial impact and cost. Resolution number 6659 established a temporary use permit of $1,160.50 and a temporary event permit fee between $360 to $756 dependent upon the number of attendees expected for the event. At this time, the full financial impact is unknown. What's required tonight is to open a public hearing, receive testimony from the public, and allow 3 minutes for each speaker and close the public hearing. Also, direct staff back to the Planning Commission with updates for ordinance number 1865 for their recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Do we want to do a presentation first before we open up the hearing?
Correct. There's a presentation by the Director
By
of
Greg
Community Development.
or Amanda?
Hi. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. So I'll be presenting an overview of the proposed amendments under the ordinance as it stands today. As the city manager has mentioned, there is some direction later on that if the council chooses, they can make amendments to this ordinance, but I'm going to present it as it was included in the packets. So again, ordinance number 1865 will repeal and readopt chapter 18.60 of the city's zoning code, and it will address new regulations for temporary use permits and temporary event permits. As it currently stands, chapter 18.60 only covers the regulations for temporary use permits. So what is temporary use permit and what is a temporary event permit? Well, again, while the city's current zoning code does not necessarily define a temporary event, under the ordinance, it will be established that it will mean any event limited in duration, while a temporary use permit or temporary use would mean the use of a property in a longer duration, but for a temporary nature. It's kind of hard to explain in definition. It'll be more clear with examples. So, for example, a temporary event permit would include a grand opening. So that's for a new business that's been established here in the city. That is outside of the operations that business would typically have. So if somebody's having a soft opening and just opening up their doors, and that necessarily wouldn't be subject to a temporary event permit. But if they wanted to close down the parking lot area, have tents and music outside, they would be subject to this new temporary event permit. Additionally, other types of events, other special events outside, festivals in the similar manner, a car show along a property, as well as outdoor events, so outdoor sales, and farmers markets. Again, the code as currently written lacks the procedure set forth to how to allow for these types of uses. So this ordinance will establish, and we'll go over what the proposed procedures would be for each type of event. So the primary provisions would be setting forth maximum durations for each event, and how many could have each property or each business could have within a 12-month period. So for instance, a grand opening per business would be allowed to have an event, 2 per business location, for a maximum up to 4 days. They don't have to have the full 4 days. They could have 2 days. They could have up to 4, but that would be the maximum for a grand opening. Similarly, for outdoor events, they would be set forth to have a maximum one period time of 4 days, but limited to a number of 4 times within that year. Again, establishing new regulations for certified farmers markets and for non-certified farmers markets would be for setting forth, again, limited durations and time for each event. In subsection B listed below, in total, these each event, each property would be allowed to have different types of events, under this table, but there would be a maximum set forth for 12. So they could have 4 outdoor sales, they could have 2 openings, but in total, they could not have more than 12 within a 12-month period. And that's what the ordinance is written as it stands right now. So temporary use permits would be slightly different. They're not events, they're not one day or weekend items, but looking to use the property in a different way than what the city's zoning code currently allows for, but is something that is temporary in nature. So as an example, would it be a construction yard? So there's this lot in the city, and there's some construction work going down the block. The property there has proper permits that they pulled, but their construction team needs a location to store their materials and vehicles and operate the construction that's going on. So they would pull a temporary use permit for up to the maximum would be for up to 6 months. That's how it currently stands as well. But this ordinance would establish those regulations again and distinguishing them between temporary event permits. Currently, the city's code calls that for these types of events, carnivals, fireworks stands, they would be subject to a temporary use permit, and that has been the practice. However, staff sees that it's a redundant process. There is a process for carnivals and for fireworks stands in the city, and the city's community development department handles that. It's in the same way as a temporary use permit is processed. So we saw that it was, again, redundant process, and there's no need to charge somebody twice for processing it in one way. So at this time, I'll bring up our director, Greg Zugiuchi, to speak in regards to the matters that have come up as of last week.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Just Amanda recapped what the ordinance was approved by the Planning Commission to bring forth before you tonight. But late last week, on March 5th, we received an email from the YMCA located on Artesia Boulevard. They're hosting a food distribution event. This is a walk-up type. And we gave it some consideration similar to how we're handling the certified farmers markets, where we could allow it for to be allowed for up to 2 days a week. We would only allow walk-up type, not the drive-through type. That we would want it to be sponsored by a nonprofit organization. And each permit would then allow them to operate for a 12-month period, just like the farmers market. And then, of course, it'd be subject to additional conditions applicable to all federal, state, and local laws. So, in the light of that, we thought that the city council might want to consider that, and how we would make that change in the ordinance. We would just add a line in that table of the ordinance where the certified farmers markets are also listed, and we would just basically mimic that. And this would then allow walk-up food distribution events, again, sponsored by nonprofits, to be able to do this for an extended period of time. One of the other things I went over real quick was that we wanted to ensure that these sites have adequate on-site parking. And that was something that we'll have to review during the application process to determine whether to do or do not. But this is for consideration. In addition to what the Planning Commission is recommending for approval, staff is recommending also that the council consider this. And so to sum it up, staff is recommending that the City Council open the public hearing, receive testimony from the public, allowing 3 minutes for each speaker, and then close the public hearing. Our recommendation for motion is that you direct staff back to the Planning Commission with the update for their recommendation again.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, we're going to open the public hearing. Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody from the public who's requested to speak on this item?
No, we do not, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so at this time, I'd like to just open this up for a discussion here. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments as it relates to this here? No one?
Madam Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Francis?
Okay, just so I'm clear, for the, okay, so the way it's written for the farmer's market, let me, right now, well, before COVID, there was a farmer's market near where I live, and it was at the church parking lot. It was every Saturday, I think it was. So under these new guidelines, will that be allowed to continue every Saturday?
So if it's certified, they'd be able to hold a farmer's market 2 days a week. It need not be consecutive days, so it could be maybe it's a Saturday and a Monday or a Wednesday, but twice a week.
Only, it wouldn't, 2 Saturdays? You're talking about only 2 Saturdays? Or not
No, they would be able to have 2 days a week. So if we go Sunday to Saturday, they could have maybe a Monday and a Saturday during a 7-day week period. And then there would be no maximum to the number of those events that they have. And if it's non-certified, then we limit it. It's more restrictive to 3 days, the number of days per event, and then 4 maximum during a 12-month period.
So the short answer is not every weekend, every Saturday. It cannot be every Saturday. I'm not talking about, I hear what you're saying, but, I'm straight talking for good understanding.
If it's certified, yes. It could happen every Saturday.
Okay,
yes.
That's all I need to know for that one. Okay, and the food giveaways. So some of them are every Saturday or every one, but they're weekly type events, and they can only be walk up. And sometimes now, how are you in terms of parking? How's that going to be handled? Because some of these events get pretty large. They have a lot of people. I don't know if you're aware of it, but food insecurity in our city, and people come from other states as well, is a serious concern. So how are we going to handle, what do you mean by parking?
Yeah, so it's kind of difficult because we don't know exactly what sites they would use. But if we use the example of the YMCA that has ample parking, we would consider that adequate. We'd also have to monitor because sometimes events get popular after a while. And so it may be adequate when it's first initiated, but it's going to require conditions on that and have to be reevaluated. So it's just the kind of something we'll have to evaluate as applications come through. But, we can get a large site such as the Food for Less parking lot. Maybe they're closed one day, hypothetically. That would be a good site. But the YMCA is adequate for the number of walk-ins that they have.
Okay. And I understand that there was a cost associated as well?
Yes, so we would put this on the applicant. It's dependent upon the number of attendees that they anticipate having. So right now, our resolution, hopefully I have a copy of that with me. There's 3 different levels. It's anywhere from 0 to 99 attendees. We would have a fee of $360. When it goes up to a medium level, and that number, I believe, was $299. I don't have my resolution with me. No, the number of attendees that make up that.
Yeah, 1 to 99, and then 99 to 100.
Yeah, we have to. Sorry.
Director Satucci.
Yes.
It's up to 99, 360, 100 attendees to 299, 447, and anything over 300 attendees, 756.
Yes, and just as a caveat, there is a charge by the LA County Fire Department, and they charge $86 on top of that.
Okay, and that's is that for one time, or is that for, if I'm doing a certified farmer's market every Saturday or a food giveaway once a week? Is that for each event? So it'd be that amount times 4, or?
That would be good for the 12-month period.
So just one
Correct.
$400 and one $700 for the whole
Whatever it may
entire
be.
year.
It would take them for the entire 12-month period.
And where does food giveaway on the event table? Where did that fit in? The food giveaway? I didn't walk a food demonstration. Okay, I see it now. All right, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem, you had a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Suzuki, in regards to the fees imposed, I pay, let's say I'm doing a large event for $756 with 300 more attendees. Is that a cumulative for the 4 events I have in the year, or that's just, what is that?
Well, for the certified farmers market, that would be $756 plus the $86 LA County Fire. Hypothetically, that is static at 86. They don't increase it. That would be for the 12-month period. So that's what you would pay for an entire 12-month period.
But over the 12-month period, I'm sure to get more than 300 attendees, no big deal, right?
No, this is for 300 or more.
Right.
So, but again, you know, it's going to be conditioned upon the ability to handle the number of attendees. You know, it may be fine at YMCA at 300 attendees, but if it ends up being 500 attendees, yes, it's still allowed. However, does it provide adequate parking for that number of attendees? We'd have to evaluate it again as staff.
Okay, thank you.
I think what he's asking is to add the 4 events of 90 attendees.
Still got a question.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I'm going to have an event. Let's say I'm going to have one event each quarter. I pay $756 for the year.
For a certified farmers market.
For a certified, or walk-up food distribution, let's say it's that. In my first quarter, I have 300 attendees. Okay. The next quarter, I have 300 attendees. The third quarter, I have 300 attendees, but I only paid $756 for the year. That's okay?
Yes, that's for the permit.
Permit, okay. I just want to understand that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so my question is a little similar to his. So what if we start off, the first event is 300, the next event now it jumps to 700 people. So then does a person then come in and they have to pay the difference then, or?
Madam Mayor, maybe I can clarify as far as how we derive fees on permits.
Okay.
So when you apply for a permit, several hands touch the permit process.
Right.
Community Development Director, the Chief of Police, and so on and so forth. So the way it works is that each person that touches the permit process, you are charged for that person's time when we cumulatively come up with the fees. Okay. So and when we say that, we use a fully burdened rate for our hourly rate. So it's not our hourly rate; it's everything that comes with our job.
I see.
Our cars, et cetera, et cetera. So when we say that it's up to 99, let's say 99 attendees.
Okay.
The moment that you break the 99, we would have to reevaluate that permit once again. So the new permit now gets evaluated. We all have to touch it again. And so if you're in the next tier, then the next tier applies for the next permit.
Okay, I see. Thank you for clarifying that. So then also their conditions then, for instance, let's just say we use the example of YMCA. It's a walk-up, but all of a sudden maybe midway through after the second or third event, they decide they're going to change it to drive-up. Can they then have it revoked if they don't follow our guidelines?
Yes, it would be conditioned in that manner.
And so what's the process as far as it just like one warning, 2 warnings, or if they continue to do it because they say, hey, we just think this is easier, or if it begins to back up traffic, then like what, what's the process then?
We don't have a set process, but our code enforcement usually gives a verbal
Okay.
to let them know the conditions of their permit that they
Okay.
have. We'll be monitoring it. We ran into a similar incident recently where we gave verbals and then we had to follow through with notices of violation and then require a permit process. So we may have to go in that same route where we verbally warn them, give them a notice of violation that they're in violation of their conditions of their permit, and that they'll have to seek a new permit or an updated permit with conditions.
And then what's the threshold as far as the number of complaints they get? So for instance, a lot of times, well, in a perfect situation, the YMCA is great because it does have its own parking, but a lot of times different places, whether it's a church or any type of facility, they're not always in the best spot as far as they may have enough parking now, but if it grows, and if they start getting complaints, maybe they're leaving trash out there or it's too noisy or something like that in the surrounding community, if it's homes nearby or, I don't know, it could be a school, it could be any of those things. As far as number of warranted complaints, is there like a threshold that will say like, hey, if there's over 100 complaints here, then you're subject to potentially losing, your permit? I mean, I noticed in maybe some of our other vendors, for instance, if you get so many complaints, like maybe they don't get their was it CPI, raise or something like that. So I'm just wondering, is there a threshold, as well, if you get so many complaints, per period?
There's no written threshold. We really don't have to provide any warning, but we do as a verbal, and then we give them a notice of violation, which is just a written warning also.
Okay.
So they're really getting 2 warnings before there's any sort of revocation or citation. So trash and debris, that would fall actually under our normal municipal code.
Okay.
And that is a citationable offense.
Okay. And then, for instance, if there's people maybe hanging out before the scheduled time of the event that's maybe affecting the surrounding neighborhood, things like that, or, I mean, are there stipulations, any of this? Because, for instance, if your event starts at 10, but you have people now lining up at 7 o'clock or, things of that nature, then what? And now it's affecting the surrounding community or things of that nature. So are there stipulations like that in there as well?
We could condition it any way that the staff, the PD, Public Works, or Planning feels is necessary. But as long as they're in compliance with all federal, state, and local laws, and that would include blocking public right-of-ways, blocking driveways, causing loud noises in violation of our noise ordinance, all those laws are already in place that we would be able to enforce.
Okay, because I think just over just a period of time, with some of the giveaways so far, this is the sort of thing that we've already seen already happen. So just trying to think ahead and plan. I mean, if this had never happened, I probably wouldn't even be asking these questions. But, when you do have right-of-ways blocked, when you have driveways blocked, when it is inhibiting traffic here, now cars can't pass, much less an emergency vehicle that has to get there. So these are all things that, that just come to mind right away as it relates to that. So, I mean, it's great, having these food giveaways because, again, food insecurity is a big deal. But at the same time, I also want to make sure that the quality of life of everybody else in the surrounding community that, minimize the effects of that as well. So.
Yeah, and it's important to know that just by issuing a permit does not give the applicant carte blanche to conduct the event any way they feel they would like to.
Okay.
There's municipal codes, there's state laws, there's federal laws that we all abide by regardless of your event. In addition to that, we can put special conditions on it.
Okay.
And they're mostly just reminders, such as, hey, no blocking of driveways or double parking. If there's not enough parking spots, you can't line up and hold up traffic in the public right-of-way. That it's kind of a reminder we put in our condition, but that's also against vehicle code to cause those types of dangerous situations. So.
And I know this may seem a little trivial, but one of the things that I found that sometimes even when, for instance, in property management, like when we're renting a place to somebody, sometimes you have to go over the application or the conditions and say, hey, no loud music, no this, no that, because I think later on when people go ahead and do these things, like, oh, I didn't know because they didn't read all the fine print. So I guess I don't mean to micromanage here, but I mean, these are things that are kind of verbally said as a person when they're turning their application, and please be aware that, you know, these are the things that can get you removed, and just saying, hey, I didn't know, that's not an excuse, right?
We can make that a best practice.
Okay.
We do make them sign the conditions,
Okay.
which are listed. That's a normal practice of ours. So when they sign it, we're, you know, it's kind of, to us, it's that they've read these and they understand these conditions, and then we have them sign them. But, you know, we could also take that extra step, verbally educate them throughout the process.
Okay. And the last question I have here, as it relates to these are the fees that are given here. So there's no groups get any special exemptions, you know, like, hey, you know, I'm a nonprofit, or I'm a church, or I'm a, I don't know. Everybody has to pay the same across the board. Is that correct? There's no exceptions. I don't
The
know
way
if I
it's
saw
pro-
anything in here.
The way it's proposed, that is the way. But
Okay.
if the council would like to,
I'm not advocating for
waive-
that. I'm just trying to see that's the way it currently stands right now.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. I just didn't know if I missed anything. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments anybody has here? Do you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Councilmember
So,
Francis?
So in addition to the $300, $400, $700, there is an application fee as well?
That would be the application fee.
Oh, this
plus,
is the whole application.
Yes.
There's no, this is the application fee. Is there another fee associated, like a permit fee or something that goes along with this, or just it?
That's what we're eliminating. Like in some events, the city had 2 different types of permits, so we're requiring just 1 permit for the event. But again, in addition to what LA County Fire also tax on, which is about currently $86.
Okay. And the unit cost, I was just trying to figure out what was that based on? Is that what your job pays per hour, or?
So
I couldn't figure that one out. It just seemed like.
yeah, so our administration department is currently going through a fee schedule update. And it just so happened that what we were able to do was utilize that same consultant in identifying the time used by each individual that would touch one of these permits. And so there's a cost detail breakout that we did with the consultant. And for example, for the middle $447 medium-size event permit, we put an allocation of about 3.25 hours in total, with 4 or 5 different employees processing it, all the way from the permit tech who takes it in to planning and other departments who would have to review this.
Yeah, but the dollar amount, how was that, you know?
Yeah, that's-
Say if they make $25 an hour, so it's 3 employees making 7, I guess.
Yeah, so
Is that how you're looking at it?
Yes, the consultant has a wage for each employee, and so it's different for each one who touches it. So it may be, a half hour with a permit tech at the rate of a permit tech. It may be 10 to 15 minutes of a planning associate at the planning associate's rate.
Okay.
Again, we're using fully burdened rates here, so it's not your hourly rate, meaning that the desk that I'm using, the computer that I'm using, the card that I'm using, they're all gets wrapped up into the hourly rate. And it does get into a minute detail as far as, for instance, police sergeant, 0.26 hours. So it's not even a quarter, it's not even half, it gets into the minutes.
So
It's very detailed.
charging for the desk, you said?
Yes.
The desk already paid for?
The desk.
I'm being silly, that's okay,
Right.
I hear you, but you're charging something's already paid for, it kind of, anyway, let me move on. So I understand that these temporary use commits, as I read, also have to do with residences and temporary use of a home. Is that part of this as well, or are they being charged the same amount? Or is this just a separate thing? I thought it was, maybe I read too much.
Yeah, I think you're talking about a temporary use.
It was on page 3. Is it? I didn't see it. So this is included as well.
Yes, so, actually, these provisions are already included in the city's zoning ordinance. It establishes these regulations for temporary use permits. Yes, for example, construction yard. I gave before, another example would be like a real estate sales office, so for new homes going through, to allow for that sales unit to temporarily be located on the property while those units are being sold.
And the temporary mobile home as temporary residence for a property owner that's remodeling his home, you charge them for that as well?
That's correct, yes. So
And
if
this-
they're building a new home, or they're, again, as listed, there's a major tenant improvement and it's seen fit by the building official that the home that's being remodeled is unfit for the resident to reside in, they could apply for this temporary use permit for a temporary trailer on the property.
And that would be the one that's $300 or?
That's the different cost. That's the first one. That would
Separate
be
cost.
the $1,160.50. Again, this is a process already established within the city's code, and there is a fee. Again, as Greg said, there was a reevaluation of the positions, and so this would be the cost that would be implemented under this ordinance and resolution.
So this is already a part of, and but what you're adding is for the farmers market and the food giveaways. That's the new part.
Correct.
That you're adding.
Correct.
Okay, and that's the one from $300 to $700 for 12 months, and it limits the number of days. Or-
Correct. It's establishing these new maximum durations for each event. Yes.
So it mostly impact the food giveaways and the farmers market certified and non-certified farmers market.
So the city's current code doesn't establish any regulations for these types of events. So it's hard to regulate and or to enforce, these regulations. So this is what this ordinance would establish. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments at this time? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and close the hearing then. And at this time, so we need to give some direction back to the Planning Commission as far as, I guess in the form of I'm sorry. Do you have a question? No. Okay, okay, I'm sorry. Greg, I'm sorry, you were motioning to something?
Oh, I thought did we open the public hearing and close it?
Yeah, I just closed
Oh,
the
okay.
public hearing. It's okay. No worries. Okay, so at this time, we're going to be making a motion to give the Planning Commission some direction here. You wanted to say something? Okay, it's,
And for clarity with the motion, is it with the same, can you pull up? As proposed by staff tonight?
Correct.
okay, so there is a motion that was made as it was recommended that we send this back to Planning Commission. We do need to take a vote on this here. So, wait, I'm sorry, hold on. Carmen, you wanted to say something? No, I'm going
need
to
a
take a vote.
second.
Okay, so there was a motion made by Councilmember Love. Is there a second? Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Love that this will be going back to Planning Commission as was stated, what she said. And Councilmember Tanaka made a second. And will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Love?
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Francis?
I'm going to vote no because I'm concerned that effectively we're going to be shutting down these. It doesn't seem. I don't see how. I just have some concern that it's not going to.
Everything is staying the same, except they're allowing food banks that have been operating.
Okay, well, hold on one second. Let's just take the motion, then I'll let you guys have some discussion. But I'm sorry, your vote, and then you're saying your vote is no?
Are we reopening up the discussion, or, we're in the middle of roll call?
Yeah, so we're going to take the vote, and if you want to discuss it afterwards, but right now I need the motion. I need the vote.
I'm going to say no because I just have some concerns about it, and because I think it's not going to have a positive impact on these events. Not that it makes any difference, but
Okay, So that's the motion, I'm sorry, not the motion, that's the vote right now as it stands. Okay?
So Councilmember Francis was no.
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Did you get everybody?
You called me already. Yeah.
Okay, stop. Okay. Let the clerk do her job. Okay, so that's that item there, and let's move on then to item number 13B. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 13B is a public hearing of ordinance number 1866, amending the Gardena Municipal Code to implement the program set forth in the city's sixth cycle 2021 to 2029 housing element and changes required by state law, and making findings that adoption of the ordinance is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15061 B3. As part of the 2021-2029 housing element, the city committed to programs which require the changes to be made to its municipal code as required by state law and as set forth by the state's Department of Housing and Community Development. On February 20th, 2024, the city's Planning Commission adopted a resolution by a 5-0 vote recommending council to adopt ordinance number 1866. The staff report presented to the Planning Commission provides a summary of the changes proposed in the ordinance, including the reasoning for each change. There's no financial impact. What's required tonight is to open the public hearing, receive testimony from the public, and allow 3 minutes for each speaker and close the public hearing. Also introduce ordinance number 1866, including making the findings for CEQA exemption pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15061 B3.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody from the public wishing to speak on this item?
No, we do not, Madam Mayor.
Okay. And so at this time, we're going to open, our presentation first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council members. I'll be providing another presentation in regards to an ordinance also involving certain zone text amendments, again, to the city's zoning ordinance. As mentioned, within the city's currently adopted 2021-2029 housing element, the city committed to certain housing programs as required under state laws and as required by the state's Housing and Community Development Department when the city was going through the process of getting its housing element certified. So I'll go over the proposed amendments under the ordinance. So the first amendment involves ensuring that there's a member within all the city's committees and commissions that have at least one representative from a disadvantaged area. This term is a broad term, but is defined within by the state, and an analysis conducted within the city's affirmatively furthering fair housing chapter in the housing element identified certain locations that met under the state's qualifiers for these types of areas. This is a map of those areas in the city. As you can see, there's a majority of the city that falls under these areas, but it's a requirement under this the state's law that there's a representative from at least one of these areas within the city's committees and commissions. So there are certain titles within the city's municipal code that establishes procedures on setting requirements for the commissioners. So those are the proposed amendments under this ordinance. The next amendment is under the Housing Element Program 3.1, which requires the cities to amend its zoning code to allow non-licensed group homes for more than 7 persons or more to be treated as other residential uses within residential zones. The city zone already allows for 6 or fewer group homes that have 6 or fewer residents to be consistent with state law to be allowed as a residential use. So under this ordinance, a definition will be added for unlicensed group homes and shown that it would be allowed as a residential use in residential zones. Again, another state requirement under the city's housing element to come into compliance with is to show that the cities provide for employee housings for 6 or fewer employees to be deemed as any other single-family home. So the single-family home zone, R1, will be amended to allow for employee housing by right. There was a requirement by the state's reviewer that our current definition of emergency shelter be updated to provide clarity on parking requirements and distance requirements. So there's just some clarification and cleanup there in the city's zoning ordinance for that. Supportive housing, this amendment under the code would establish a new chapter in the city's zoning title in reference to specifically supportive housing for homeless. It's setting forth provisions required by state law for the procedures to allow for supportive housing for homeless in residential zones. So wherever residential uses are permitted, allow for these types of supportive housing, which are housing developments that provide certain types of services. Particularly, this requirement is to require to allow for the target population of those experiencing homelessness to be allowed within residential zones. So the ordinance is being amended for a new chapter to set forth those procedures. The next amendment is involving replacement housing. There are certain state requirements already in place for when a property is being redeveloped, when there's lower income housing units on that site, for the requirement to replace those units. They don't necessarily need to be required in certain state laws. They don't necessarily need to be required to be on the site, but need to provide it somewhere else within the city. So replacement housing regulations is being adopted within this ordinance, or would be adopted under this ordinance to identify the procedures to require for those replacements of those lower income units. Particularly this derived from the requirement for any housing development that was listed, or a housing development unit listed under the city's regional housing needs assessment, or RHNA. So this calls for the procedures that the city staff will follow on properties that are redeveloped with one of these types of units listed in the city's housing element. The last few are some clarifications and updates with new recent housing laws. The first, in regards to the city's design review, this is a new process that was established, that came before the city council last time in relation to our housing element. This established review process for 2 units or more projects, or allowed to 2 family dwelling units, or for projects that included 20% of lower income households and 100% for our moderate income households. To be streamlined in this way, but establishing a design review that set forth objective standards for these housing projects. Again, clarification under this ordinance would establish that this process is also subject for transitional housing projects and supportive housing projects. And lastly, there's amendments that came up in recent state legislation that remove the requirement that cities had for enforcing that the property owner within an accessory dwelling unit be a resident of one of the units on site. Can no longer require that under this new law. So we're removing that. But this does not remove the requirement that the owner be a resident for the site that has a junior accessory dwelling unit. Again, a junior accessory dwelling unit is a unit attached to a single family home that's typically within that existing home. So still a requirement for the owner to be a resident within one of those units. And lastly, under this ordinance, the staff is recommending that the council make the findings for exemptions under the California Environmental Quality Act under sections 15378 of subsection A and 15061 subsection B subsection 3, finding that this ordinance is exempt and filing the proper noticing. So what's being recommended by staff is that this is a public hearing item. It was noticed for a public hearing to open that, receive testimony from the public, allowing 3 minutes for each speaker, and closing the public hearing at that time. What staff's recommending for motion tonight is to introduce the ordinance. This would have to come back forth for a second reading, but also at this time making the findings for those exemptions from CEQA.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing. I don't know if I asked this question. Madam City Clerk, do we have any speakers on this item? I think I asked that.
No, we do not, Madam Mayor.
Okay, does any member of the council have any questions or comments at this time? No?
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Okay, Councilman.
Slow on the.
Okay,
trying to get this
Councilmember
thing
Francis, go
working.
ahead.
So these are, because I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought when the House cycle went on, we passed and everything was fine. There was no problem with it, and yeah, we're good. And we got in on time. In fact, we got in early because I think city managers going around bragging to other cities. We're done. We got ours. We're good. What have you done? So, is this something that new has recently come up, or?
Yes, well, it's true. Yes, we have a certified housing element, and I can tell you that there are still, surprisingly, some jurisdictions within this region that still do not have a certified housing element by the state. Mm-hmm. So it is, it is a big accomplishment that the city has in order to that they went through the process and got it certified within that time frame. But within that housing element, it's the city's plan for implementing the needs and assessments of the city's housing production. So it's not something that's necessarily that we complete and set aside. It should be the city's plan to actively meet those goals and policies that we've established in them. Within that area, in the programs, there were the number of requirements that the state asked the city to implement into its municipal code, which enforces the city's plan, the city's housing element. So that's what's being brought before the council tonight.
So that I'm clear. So although the state certified and said we're good, they came back and said, "Oh, hold on, you're not so good." Is that what happened, or is this something that staff has come forth and said, "Well, you know what? Let's take another look at this. Let's add these so we'll be even better."
Well, while there isn't currently a direct enforcement by the state, we do have to annually report to the state how we are meeting these requirements and meeting our goals and policies. So we do report to the state. So again, we're just wanting to meet those requirements and report back that we're following along with the plans that the city has approved.
So then we don't have to, for example, the low-income housing development, that the low-income housing does not have to be located within the development. It can be located anywhere in the city, that I can build Project A without low-income housing, but as long as I put low-income housing somewhere in the city, it's okay. Is that what that means?
Councilwoman Francis, first off, in the housing element itself, in Section 5 was your housing plan that had the goals and policies and also the programs. And the programs are what you have to come back and do. So it was part of what HCD certified, that when we set forth, this is what we're going to do in HCD, and we have time frames to do them in, and that's what we're bringing forward tonight. As far as where the replacement housing can go, there are certain of the replacement housing provisions under state law where where a developer may come in and, let's say you have legal non-conforming residential in a commercial zone, and they want to do a commercial development, and the residential doesn't belong there. If they do a commercial development, they are allowed to put the replacement housing in a different area than on the project site, because that's not a site that was zoned for residential uses. So that's where they can go onto a different site, is
But
when
this-
it's a non-residential project being built.
Okay, but as I understand, this is something you're adding, wasn't already in our program, you're adding. I thought that's what you said.
The program required us to adopt this ordinance. The housing element, we said we will come back and we will adopt this ordinance. So that's what
But
we are
just
doing now.
The whole thing is just part of it. I'm just kind of, because you said we're certified and we're good, so I'm just trying to figure out, are we, this something that you're coming back and adding? If it's
This-
not
no,
necessary, for example,
no.
let me ask another question, I'll be done with you. Supportive housing, I'm concerned about that as well. And because that's not, that's case management, and usually those folks have, I'm not, being mean or unkind to anybody, but usually when we talk about supportive housing, you're talking about wraparound case management for people that have concerns, issues, and drug addiction, follow up on that, mental health issues, and so it could be put anywhere, or as long as they're supportive housing, that part of it has to be low income, but if people have these issues are already low income.
This particular chapter on supportive housing that we're adding, the new chapter 18.76, that's implementing state law that specifically says we have to allow supportive housing for homeless people in residential zones. So that's everything we are doing is what we told the state we would do. That was when you do your housing element, when any city does their housing element, one of the chapters are programs and policies. What are you going to do going forward?
I guess.
Councilmember Francis, so we told HCD we were going to do this. And, they approved it conditioned on that. And so, but they want to say, hey, it goes into your municipal code, because they don't want us to just say something and not actually put it in our code, meaning that, it's going in there, it's implemented. Otherwise, what you would find is you would find agencies who would just say something to get it approved, and there would be no follow-up whether or not they're actually doing that, and if there's a commitment. And so part of the condition, it's you're approved, but you got to show that the programs you said you were going to do, you're trying to do them. And remember, now HCD has a strong enforcement wing. So it's not like back in the day where, you would say you're going to do something and it was just shelved somewhere and forgotten about. The state is trying to ensure that people are following up with this.
Yes, I just thought when we said we were going to do it, it was already written. We didn't have to come back and make amendments. That's what the housing cycle and all the element. I thought all those things that you said we were going to do was already there, and we didn't have to come back and do anything except do it. And so now you're telling me that we were just talking, and now we got to do it. Okay, I'm just concerned. Thank you. I just have concerns. But do we have to approve it all, or can we approve the parts that we like, or because there's quite a bit.
Everything that is in the ordinance is required by state law. If you don't implement it, then we are in violation of state law and can have, as Carmen indicated, enforcement action by HCD against us.
Yeah, that's what you told me last time. Thank you so much for your response. I appreciate your research. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments at this time? I do have one really quick one here. So I guess originally in our ordinances, like as it related to ADUs, you had to be a resident, not the junior one, but just the regular ADU one.
An owner.
An owner, I'm sorry. So, but the new guidelines that are in our housing element states that you can be.
Not our housing element.
I'm sorry.
This is state law.
I'm sorry, state law. Thank you for clarifying. Okay, in state law then that now that it's being officially in our ordinance now, once we introduce it and it gets voted on, moving forward with it, once it's introduced and voted on and it goes through its whole process, then I guess in essence, then it means that a person can just buy a property, not live there, and just have, convert it to an ADU and never be
So
and never have to stay in that property, just from my understanding?
that's correct.
Okay.
So,
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that was all. Thank you, I appreciate explaining it and kind of breaking it
yeah,
down. for
and
me.
again, just a change in state policy, state law.
And we're just with the ordinance here.
Regardless of what we do in our ordinance, that's the law that we have to follow.
I understand. Thank you again for the explanation of that. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And at this time here, is there a motion to introduce ordinance number 1866?
Madam Mayor, with the inclusion of making the findings for a CEQA
Oh, that's right.
exception.
Thank you. Also including making the findings for a CEQA exemption pursuant to CEQA guidelines, section number 15061B3. Can I get someone to introduce the ordinance?
I'll introduce the ordinance.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, the ordinance was introduced by Councilmember Love, which will basically mean we need to take a vote to introduce the ordinance at this time. So, Madam City Attorney, correct me if I'm not mistaken, since she's introducing it, she's the first one on it.
That is correct.
Okay.
As a reminder, we're introducing the ordinance and we're voting on the motion is for the CEQA exemptions as well.
Okay, thank you. So, Councilmember Love made made the motion, and is there a second? Okay, Madam City Clerk, a motion was made by Councilmember Love and a second by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Love?
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Francis?
Is that correct? All right.
Correct. It's correct.
Yes.
And Mayor Serta?
Yes. Okay, next up is item number 13C. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 13C. There's another public hearing of urgency ordinance number 1867, extending a temporary moratorium on significant tobacco retailers for an additional year to March 27, 2025, and making findings that adoption of the ordinance is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15061B3. At the council meeting held March 28, 2023, council adopted an urgency ordinance number 1850, a moratorium prohibiting any new significant tobacco retailer businesses from establishing in the city. This was done in order to allow staff to conduct the necessary research, hold study sessions if desired by the city council, and ultimately bring back an ordinance related to significant tobacco retail businesses. And on May 9, 2023, council adopted ordinance number 1853, extending the moratorium on significant tobacco retailers until March 27, 2024. Adoption of urgency ordinance number 1867 would extend the existing moratorium until March 25, 2025, and allow staff the time to bring back an ordinance with the direction provided tonight. Successful adoption of urgency ordinance 1867 requires a 4/5 vote of the City Council. Staff is here to conduct a presentation and receive direction and clarification on drafting a new ordinance prohibiting any significant tobacco retailers from establishing in the city. There is no financial impact at this time. What's required is open the public hearing, receive testimony from the public, allow 3 minutes for each speaker, and close the public hearing. Also adopt urgency ordinance 1867 and to conduct a study session to provide direction to staff on prohibiting significant tobacco retailers. I think we have a
Presentation? Okay.
presentation.
Yes, good evening again, Mayor and members of the council. So tonight's public hearing is in regards to urgency ordinance number 1867, which would extend the existing moratorium on any new significant tobacco retail stores within the city of Gardena. So staff, right off the bat, is recommending that you approve ordinance number 1867, which would extend that moratorium on significant tobacco retailers until March 27, 2025. Staff was looking at a lot of different ordinances throughout not only the South Bay, but other cities in California on how they were regulating tobacco-type retailers. Somewhere it was getting pretty complicated with distances between schools, distances with different retailers, whether or not they should be near churches or parks or whatnot. Staff is taking the position that the council would likely prohibit any new tobacco retailers within the city of Gardena on a permanent basis. With that being said, staff is recommending that the 16 that are currently in existence be the only ones to remain in the city. No new ones would be allowed. That we wouldn't allow any relocation of these 16 locations, that where they're at is where they're at. They would become a legal non-conforming use, and this is similar to a lot of the automobile uses that are not in the correct zone. They are there until they are discontinued for about a 6-month period, 4 to 6 month period, and then they wouldn't be able to reopen after that. So we're taking the same stance with these automobile repair type facilities that are not in the correct zone and without, that are considered legal non-conforming. So we would treat these the same way. And that's staff's recommendation, again, to permanently prohibit these significant tobacco retail shops, and that the 16 that exist continue until they no longer discontinue their use for a 6-month period. So staff's recommendation is that you open the public hearing, receive testimony from the public, allowing 3 minutes for each speaker, and then close the public hearing. At this time, if there are any questions.
Okay, so let's start by opening the public hearing. Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody who wishes to speak on this, or do we have any comments that are in on this?
We have no one signed up to speak, but we did receive a public comment, and that public comment has been distributed, added to the agenda packet, and made part of the record.
Okay, thank you. So does any member of the council have any questions or comments at this time? I have one. So does this include also like cigar lounges or like a hookah lounge as well?
It's not staff's intent to include those.
Okay.
We could, right now, our ordinance says if it's the main purpose of the business, but we could certainly carve that out specifically.
I think it, just on kind of maybe what I've heard a little in the community, I think we should make sure that this cigar lounge or hookah lounge is not identified as a tobacco retailer. I mean, you know, it's not the same thing there, because I think its main use is a lounge first. I think that's what I would like to see in there. So maybe just to differentiate that this doesn't fall under the same thing at all.
Certainly, we can develop proposed language for that
Okay.
before it comes back to
Because
the
it is
council.
completely, I won't say completely, but it's very different, that use there. Any other questions or comments anybody has?
I have a
If not-
comment.
Okay, Councilmember Francis?
And this would not include marijuana stores. It's just strictly tobacco.
We currently prohibit
Prohibit,
marijuana.
okay.
Yeah.
I just want to double check that. And the other thing, now for the cigar lounges, do they sell? Would it prohibit them selling tobacco within the lounge? I mean, if someone came and said, "Hey, I didn't bring my cigars with me. Can you sell me some?" They could be able to sell them to them.
I'm not a member of the cigar
Right.
lounge,
That's why I'm asking, because
yeah.
I guess
I-
some of the people either bring theirs, where they're going to smoke their cigars with them, but.
You got this, or?
Okay, let her finish let her finish her question
Yeah,
first.
So
and then I'll go to you.
Are they allowed to? I mean, I understand about cigar lounges and all that, and the hookah lounges, but are they allowed to sell tobacco products on site? And with because they do allow site, would that also cause them to become a retail type entity, or?
So the way currently we define significant tobacco retailers, and I don't know the exact wording, but it's means a tobacco retailer for which the principal or core business is selling tobacco. And so, these lounges may already be excluded because that isn't the core business, but we're going to make sure that it's carved out. But I believe lounges do sell some tobacco products, but I am not the expert on that, and I can defer to maybe some of our members who may be.
Okay.
And the other thing, I am, just for Rachel Johnson, President Gardner, Highland Park Homeless Association, as well as myself, we are very concerned, as we were the last time when this moratorium was put in place, about the overproliferation of tobacco stores, not only in North Gardena, but citywide. And so I'm in support of this moratorium going forward for that reason, until we can get something, an ordinance on paper and approved.
Just to ease your mind.
Councilmember Tanaka, go ahead. Everybody hold on. Let me recognize you. Okay.
I think
Councilmember Tanaka, go.
I think I've been to a couple of them, but lounges technically are for smoking cigars for guys or women who just want to hang out. But they do sell cigar products. They don't do tobacco products, the ones that I've known. They don't do cigarettes. They don't do chew. They don't do the flavored stuff. They don't do vapes. It's specifically for cigars.
By significant sales, you're meaning that's your primary function and there's no smoking allowed on the premises.
So our current definition does go into more detail, such as 20% or more of the display area can't be of tobacco-related products. 67% of gross sales receipts derived can't be more than from tobacco products. And then the sale of 50% or more of the total completed transaction. So there is a more specific definition of a significant tobacco retailer. And so I think the council's intent is, regardless of all that, let's, if it's not their primary function for lounges, that it be excluded from this.
All right, thank you.
Okay. I was under the impression that the lounges, it was more membership first. That's where majority of their income comes in. I have not been to a lounge. I'm not aware. I just know there are a lot of cigar people who who've inquired and asked me about this. So that's why that was my understanding first, that was their main thing first there. Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem, if you'd like
So
to.
respond to that. So because we do have a cigar lounge in our city, it's mostly membership based, and they don't sell chew, as Councilman Tanaka said, chew, cigarettes, and they have a small humidor that would sell cigars, but you bring your own and smoke or not at all and just watch TV. So but it's mostly membership based.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Sounds like a spa. All right. Okay. If there are no more questions, then let's go ahead and close the public hearing here. And at this time here, where are we at? Right. Okay, here we go. At this time, can I get a motion to adopt urgency ordinance number 1867 and conduct a study session to provide direction to the staff prohibiting significant tobacco retailers?
Madam Mayor, if I may, I think the study session has been conducted. Director Suchiuchi, do you have the direction?
Is there another one, or do we need to do?
I still need to have the motion on the urgency ordinance, but before we move forward, is there any additional direction that you need at this time, Director Suchiuchi?
It would be clarification. So staff's recommendation was that we receive direction to develop an ordinance that would permanently prohibit significant tobacco retailers with the insurance that lounges would not be included in that prohibition.
That's correct. And so we don't need to do an additional study session, as was
You
stated.
just conducted it.
We just did, okay.
What I do
Yeah,
need
I thought it
from
was just a
you,
discussion.
what I do need is for the adoption of the urgency ordinance 1867, which would then extend the moratorium until March 27, 2025. Director Suchiuchi will come back before that time with the permanent ordinance, given the direction you gave him. And I will remind you, an urgency ordinance requires at a minimum 4 out of 5 votes.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay, so then at this time, then, Councilmember Francis is making the motion for this. Is there, okay. Madam City Clerk, a motion was made by Councilmember Francis and seconded by Councilmember Love. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Francis?
Yes.
Councilmember Love? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka?
Yes.
And Mayor Serta?
Yes. Okay. Next up is item number 14A. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 14A is approval of a one-year agreement with Townsend Public Affairs, Inc. for legislative advocacy and grant funding services in the amount of $84,000. TPA was hired by the City of Gardena in March 2022 to help secure state and federal funding for its priority projects. Efforts to advance the city's priority projects included the pursuit of earmarks in the state budget and federal appropriations bills for fiscal years 2022 to 2023 and 2023 to 2024. TPA partnered with the city to develop, advocate, and secure several major wins with our elected leaders in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. The TPA city team worked together to secure over $12 million in direct funding for priority projects identified in the city, including $4 million for the Digital Equity for All Bridging the Digital Divide, championed by Assemblymember Marsucci. $2 million for the Gardena Boulevard revitalization, which is championed by Senator Bradford. $1 million for Rosecrans Community Center, championed by Congresswoman Waters. $3 million for Raleigh Park Gymnasium. This is championed by Senator Bradford again. $2 million for Mas Fukai Park, championed by Senator Ben Allen. And $122,410 for the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant EECBG program for electric vehicles. So far in 2024, the TPA team, in partnership with the city, crafted and submitted state and federal district funding requests in an effort to secure direct resources. On the federal side, the funding request was for $2 million for Mas Fukai Park and $3 million for citywide facilities, accessibility, and equity enhancements. On the state side, the city requested $5 million for the Rosecrans Community Center, $3 million for commercial facade improvement program with a small business support, $1.75 million for Freeman Park, $2 million for Johnson Park, $3 million for citywide facilities, accessibility, and equity enhancements, $3 million for the Gardena Willows Wetland Preserves, and $6.2 million for the Aquatic Center. In addition to these items, TPA will continue to look for grants and state legislative opportunities for the city. Staff recommends for the City Council to approve a one-year contract with Townsend Public Affairs, Inc. in the amount of $84,000 to provide legislative advocacy and grant writing services. Fiscal impact is general fund $84,000. What's required is to approve the agreement. And we have Mr. DeLuca from TPA here tonight to answer any questions you may have regarding this engagement.
Welcome, Mr. DeLuca.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mayor and council members, Nicolo DeLuca from Townsend Public Affairs. It is an honor to be before you. As the city manager said, we've been working on behalf of the city in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. for 2 years. Proud to say we've helped secure over $12 million. I want to be respectful for everyone's time, and the city manager gave a great overview. So just kind of real quickly, as you all know, our firm, we've been around since 1998, founded by Christopher Townsend. Primarily, we represent local municipalities. We're the only top 10 firm in the state that specializes in both legislative advocacy and grant funding in Sacramento and D.C. Proud to say we've now secured over $3 billion for our clients. As the city manager said, hired in 22, so exactly 2 years ago. And on the scorecard, it's over $12 million in state and federal funding. Quick summary also as to what the city manager said. These projects, so working in strong partnership with city staff to create a focused effort that culminated in the strategic submittal of multiple earmarks championed by some of our great delegation members in Sacramento and D.C. So Member Marsucci for the Digital Equity for All, Senator Bradford for Gardena Boulevard Revitalization, Congresswoman Waters for Rosecrans Community Center. So that was in 22. Then 23, just like the city manager said, Raleigh Gymnasium championed by Senator Bradford and Mas Fukai Park from Senator Allen. Really obviously proud of all of them. What was great about Mas Fukai, as you all know, with redistricting, Senator Allen was brand new to the city of Gardena. Mayor, I really want to thank you for a lot of your efforts on the front end of sitting down with the senator, explaining what some of their priorities were. And of course, his staff was great to work with on Mas Fukai. I know that they're really proud of also doing the check presentation during one of your very well-attended events. So that's the total win column, which also includes the grant that we helped the city with. So now what are we doing right now? So as of this weekend, we submitted our federal request to Senator Butler for Masukai and for equity access improvements to city facilities. We are waiting for Senator Padilla and Congresswoman Waters to open up their portal for submittals. We'll be doing the same thing. What the submittal is, we take the lead on the submitting the narrative, the budget, reasons why this should be funded, the positive impact of the community. So that's on the federal side. So what you just heard about, just the president over the weekend signed the fiscal year 24 bill. So now we're working on the fiscal year 25 requests. Also, legislatively on the federal side, a lot of times there's not that much federal legislation that causes eyebrows to be raised. This was one of them. Congresswoman Kamlager Dove has a bill, HR 6859, to extend federal recognition to the Gabrielino Nation. That would have a negative impact on the city due to some of the benefits of having that recognition, i.e., potentially a casino that would impact your card rooms, which are a great economic driver for the area. So that's also going on. And on the federal side, our federal team has been working they've spoken with the Congresswoman's office about their plans for it. We've also expressed our concern to her office, to the committee that would be heard before, and to others. Then on the state side, we've submitted our budget request. Right now, we're in a bit of a holding pattern on the state side. There is a projected deficit, but in years past, there's been projected deficits where earmarks have been given, so we continue to push for that. Obviously, again, working with our delegation to highlight the need, and we presented a menu of options. We don't like to just submit one project, give them a menu of options so they can latch on to projects that they're supportive of. And then on the legislative side, so at the time of this report, we had not seen all the bills that are out. We're looking at over 2,000 bills that have been introduced for this legislative session. A lot of hot topic items, including retail theft, firearm safety regulations, fentanyl and drug overdose prevention, housing streamlining, climate resiliency programs. There's a couple different bonds that are out there, funding for the unhoused and other projects. There's also a bill that we're watching, SB 549 from Senator Newman, which could also have a negative impact on the city. The city has gone on record to oppose, and we've made sure that our opposition is clear, and we've talked to a lot of committee staff and delegation members as to why this bill has a negative impact on the city. We continue to work on grants, ongoing weekly legislative updates where we do a summary of what's happened in DC and Sacramento in bite-sized pieces, do monthly grant updates to the team. Here is the EECBG award of $122,410 for EV infrastructure. Our team partnered with city staff to help work on that application and submit it and make sure we got the funding. And then looking ahead, so what are we working on? Those are the 5 main topics, and of course things pop up. So federal earmarks, state earmarks, federal legislative efforts, state legislative efforts, and grant support. So with that, happy to answer any questions you all have. I have really appreciated working to represent the city. You see me, but we have a big team. We have a team in DC, we have a team down here in Southern California, we have a team in Sacramento. So thank you all for your clear direction and your leadership, and it's been great partnering with city staff too.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. Do we have any questions or comments from members of the council? Let's start with Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to say, thank you, Mr. DeLuca, for the presentation and summarizing some of the great work we did. This was an endeavor by the city of Gardena to try something new and something different. We were skeptical. Some were skeptical and apprehensive at first, but collectively we figured this would be a good investment, and it's actually paid great dividends for our community. So we want to, I'd be in favor of continue the partnership and see what else we can get so we can really improve our community. So I just wanted to share those thoughts, Madam Mayor. That's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions or comments? If not, I too also like to say, I really appreciate you guys really staying up on the HR 6859 because being the chairman of the CCGA as it relates to our card rooms for California here, that was one that had us all very nervous, and it still does, but I appreciate the fact that you guys have hands in Washington, and as much as we always try to get to our maybe talk with different representatives, you guys being right there in the forefront to see where is this bill going, does it have any traction, or like, how nervous should we be? I appreciate that, and kind of just really keeping us updated on that, because a lot of times we can't be everywhere because, of course, we're all part-time elected officials, but it's great knowing that you guys have relationships out there with those sort of things. I did hear you mention some things about like retail theft, and I don't want to overstep my authority here because I'm sure staff is taking notes back there, but because we now just recently started having like every other month retail theft meetings where we're talking to some of our different retailers as far as things we can do to keep from having slow down people from stealing things out of the stores, because my biggest fear is I don't want to lose any of our major stores here, your Vons, your Albertsons, et cetera, like that. So if there's ever any funding for anything extra we do, like that, our juvenile justice, and again, I apologize if I'm overstepping here, but any money that you guys see that can come our way, we appreciate that. $12 million over 2 years. For what we pay for the investment, I think that's a great deal. I'm not going to say steal, but a deal. So thank you for that. But so far, I really appreciate the partnership that we've had here. It's been good, and I've heard great positive things from our elected officials in Sacramento and in Washington working with you guys. So it's always great when you work with organizations that have good, positive reputations like that. So that's all I have to say, and thank you.
Mayor, thank you very much for those words. I will definitely get with staff on retail theft. There's definitely a push. I don't want to confuse the two, but they're used kind of together, retail theft and then Prop 47.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of discussion, and a lot more is going to come. So in Sacramento on bills, we're just getting started.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to have a really very active year. The governor had some proposals on retail theft. The District Attorneys Association's got some proposals, and I think it'll be something in between. In fact, just yesterday, I'm a little tired, so it was either yesterday or the day before, my coworker sat down with the Assembly Public Safety Chair, and he's going to put forward some of his proposals relating to retail theft, kind of touching upon Prop 47, but then greater enforcement tools.
Okay.
Definitely happy to talk to staff about juvenile justice. That has really been a trend over the last few years, especially young people. No one's perfect. We all make mistakes, making sure we can steer them in the right direction as opposed to going into any systems. The penal code, kind of looking at that, there's been a pause on penal code enforcements over the years. But happy to talk to staff to see what's available for juvenile justice, because it has been a trend over the last few years about really helping, making sure young people have the proper support, job training, options, things of that nature.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry, Councilman Berlove.
I haven't had the pleasure of working with Townsend like apparently my colleagues have. Can you tell me what grants or funding has Townsend identified, went after, and secured for the city?
Absolutely, council member, through the mayor. Well, certainly we have all those earmarks. The one that we mentioned was the EEC, the one for $122,000 for electric vehicle charging stations. That we worked with staff on that, submitted that, that's been secured. What we do once a month is we share a monthly memo of upcoming grant opportunities and talk to city staff to see which ones are a good fit, what we want to go after, and what have you. We've done monthly grant calls to talk about those specific grants. So to answer your question directly, there was the one for $122,000 for electric charging vehicles. Obviously, we've got the state and federal earmarks, and then we do the monthly updates with the list of options.
So Townsend has had a contract for 2 years.
Correct.
And you're here to get your contract extended for another year. And in that 3-year period, you've identified, sought after, and secured $122,000. Is that correct?
No, I respectfully, it's incorrect.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Total amounts over $12 million.
Well,
that includes the state and federal earmarks, and we're also been focusing on the grants too.
Okay, and the reason why I asked the question the way I've asked it is because I've talked to some of our state electeds, and they've told me that Townsend did not initially go after the funding. And so I'm confused because I have our electeds on state level saying that Townsend didn't have anything to do with the initial request for the funding, and even some of them telling me that Townsend didn't have anything to do with the funding, period, getting the funding approved, period. But over the time, I'm hearing Townsend take credit for this. So I'm asking you to identify. So you're telling me that Townsend has initiated, wrote, secured over $12 million for the city of Gardena.
Yes, and Councilmember, I recall we had the same conversation last year, and I understand some of the sensitivity about taking credit. We never take full credit over any of this. In fact, if it wasn't for whether Senator Bradford or Senator Allen or Assemblymember Marsucci, for them to submit that application, to submit that ask, because when it comes to state earmarks and federal earmarks, it's the elected representative submits that ask.
Mm-hmm.
Without us and without the partnership of the city team, those asks would not have gotten to them. And I understand some of the sensitivity. I want to be very respectful to that because it's a team effort to get these funds.
Now,
when we were first hired, the very next day we worked with city staff. We crafted a budget request letter to our delegation. We had a handful of projects working with city staff to come up with a narrative, to come up with the phrasing, to come up with a strategy. We then, me personally, submitted that request letter to the delegation. I also personally followed up with the delegation members. Did I speak to each actual elected representative? No. Did I work closely with their staff? Yes, I did. So I want to be respectful of everyone's relationships and everyone's roles because it takes a team to secure these funds. But I'm very confident in what I know I did personally and what our team did personally for these funds.
Now, with the state being in the severe deficit that we're looking at, and I know that the state has sent cities letters recalling some of those fundings.
Great question on that, and thank you, and if I can jump in.
Sure, go ahead.
So one of the awards, 2 awards from last year was Moss Fukai and Raleigh Gymnasium. And the state did not yet, so that was awarded, it was in the budget, governor signed the budget bill, money got appropriated to those agencies. It's Natural Resources, Parks, and Rec.
Right.
They had not yet sent the funding to the city after there's been some communication. Come January in the governor's budget, his proposed budget, he said, you know what, there's $350 million in district funding. I want to pull that back. We immediately told the city. We weighed in. I personally went to the Assembly Budget Committee and said on behalf of the city of Gardena, those funds were given to us. We need those funds. At that committee and then also at the Senate Budget Committee, both chairs said, we understand there's a proposal from the governor to pull back some of those funds that we approved last year. We want to be very clear that's something that we're going to fight hard against.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions? Do you have a question? Okay,
Just one
Councilmember
quick one.
Francis?
So not only do you advocate for the city of Gardena for funding, but for other legislation that may have a positive or negative impact on.
When the city takes a formal position on a piece of legislation, whether in DC or in Sacramento, once you take that position, then yes, we advocate for that position.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, if not, can I make a motion to approve the agreement?
So moved.
Is there a second? Oh, I'm sorry. Was something else you're saying?
Second.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, a motion was made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Mayor Pro Tem. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Tanaka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Francis?
Yes.
Councilmember Love?
Yes.
And Mayor Serta?
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up is item number 16A. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 16A is to approve and authorize Director of Public Works to execute an authorization for crossing improvements, otherwise known as ACI, between the City of Gardena and Union Pacific Railroad, UPRR, for the Western Avenue Railroad Crossing Improvement Project, job number 537. Additionally, approved budget appropriation of $120,000 from Measure M Local. The Western Avenue Railroad Crossing is an active railroad crossing between 166th and 168th Streets that is owned and operated by UPRR. The railroad tracks, the sensors that control the gates and the adjacent asphalt pavement have been in very poor condition, resulting in a rough, uneven, and pothole-filled crossing with the railroad gates prone to malfunction. The subject, ACI, enumerates each party's scope, construction responsibilities, and share of the cost. The estimated total cost to improve the railroad crossing within the UPRR is $234,588. UPRR's portion will be 50% of the cost, which is $117,294. In this ACI, UPRR will install new tracks on concrete panels and new signal control lines. The City of Gardena will then proceed with grinding and paving of the approaching pavement to ensure that the transition is as smooth as possible under a separate bid processing and contract. Staff recommends the City Council approve and authorize the Director of Public Works to execute an authorization for crossing improvements between City of Gardena and Union Pacific Railroad in a form approved by the City Attorney for the Western Avenue Railroad Crossing Improvement Project, job number 537. Additionally, approve the budget appropriation in the amount of $120,000 to finance the City of Gardena's share in the railroad crossing rehabilitation from Measure M local funds. What's required is to approve the budget, is to authorize the Director of Public Works to execute an authorization for crossing improvements with UPRR and approve the budget appropriation, $120,000 from Measure M local.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody from the public wishing to speak on this item?
No, we do not, Madam Mayor.
Okay, does any member of the council have any questions or comments?
It's just one.
Okay, hold on, Councilmember Francis, go ahead.
I know this has been a long process, but we couldn't get them to take the tracks up altogether, just kind of cement over. just ask. I'm surprised that they're willing to pay for part of it, actually, because initially I thought they were like, Gardena, that's your problem. You guys take care of it.
This is actually a great win for the city, and then, Public Works has been really working hard, working with UPRR to make sure that we get this thing done. And just like Artesia, this will be a great improvement for the city, just on not only aesthetics, but the overall feel. Because our city, the streets in our city is great. When you get into the railroads, it's rough. And it's a good thing that they're footing the bill for half of it.
Yeah, because initially they weren't in agreement to that. Couldn't get them to pay for all of it, huh? Okay. Anyway, thank you so much. All right, appreciate that. Thank you. I know it's been a long haul, but thank you. Appreciate your effort.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, can I get a motion to authorize the Director of Public Works to execute an authorization for crossing improvement with UPRR, as well as approve the budget appropriations? Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Is there a second? Madam City Clerk, there was a motion by Mayor Pro Tem and a second by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Francis?
Yes.
Councilmember Love?
Yes.
And Mayor Serta?
Yes. Next up is item number 16B.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 16B is award sidewalk trip hazard removal contract for the pedestrian safety project fiscal year 2023-2024, job number 527 to Southern California Precision Concrete, Inc. in the amount of $171,571.73. Also approve 10% construction contingency and declare California Environmental Quality Act or CEQA exemption. There are approximately 113 center miles of roads and 226 miles of sidewalk in the city, which are one of our most valuable assets. It is the city's priority to keep this infrastructure in excellent and safe condition for the residents to enjoy. The purpose of this program is to be proactive in preventative sidewalk maintenance and develop a program to minimize trip hazards and falls and meet ADA compliance. The program will also reduce the need for removal and replacement of sidewalk, which is significantly more costly. Southern California Precision Concrete, Inc. provides trip hazard repair for uneven sidewalks. Their surveying data for sidewalks is compatible with our Nobel GIS system. We will be able to use Nobel to locate all areas that have been grinded and areas for potential removal and replacement by rating the sidewalks 1 to 5, with 5 being top priority. If needed, we will schedule for removal and replacement of sidewalks that can possibly be added to future CIP projects and plan accordingly. In fiscal year 2022-2023, Southern California Precision Concrete Inc. removed 1,143 sidewalk trip hazards located within Zone 1, Zone 1 being the northwest corner of our city. The work consisted of cutting approximately 5,866 linear feet of lifted sidewalk. Trip hazards removed were between 1/2 inch and 2.5 inches and feathered back to ADA standards to create a safe walkway. They can shave approximately 150 sidewalk locations each day with an average of 15 minutes per location depending on the severity of the sidewalk. Staff recommends the city piggyback on last year's pedestrian safety improvements, fiscal year 22-23 sidewalk trip hazard removal contract, job number 513, as the contractor agreed to honor the same rate of $34.95 per inch foot. This recommendation aligns with Gardina's cooperative purchasing policy, APP 218-003, Section B. City will piggyback this rate, not exceeding $171,571.73, to remove 1,109 trip hazards located in Zone 2. The annual pedestrian safety project budget is to be divided between the sidewalk trip hazard removal phase and the future sidewalk reconstruction phase. Staff recommends the City Council award the contract for the pedestrian safety improvement fiscal year 23-24 sidewalk trip hazard removal job number 527 to Precision Concrete Inc. in the amount of $171,571.73, and additionally approve 10% of the construction award amount, $17,157.17, to be used for construction contingency. Also declare this project to be categorically exempt from the CEQA Article 19, Section 15301, Class 1C as rehabilitation of existing facilities. Source of funds for job number 527 will be Measure R. For job number 527, Phase 2, SB 821, the total is $440,000. That would be the source of funds. What's required tonight is award construction contract, approve construction contingency, and declare CEQA exemption. I also want to commend the consultant for providing us with a detailed map of the different zones. Also, you'll find in the attached exhibits the section where there's a yellow insert. It provides Zone 2 pricing sheet as provided in the price for inch foot. It goes into the detail as far as the different sections of the streets, how high the cuts will be, medium, small, medium, and large, and then the approximate cost of the cuts per that section of the street.
Okay, thank you. Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody from the public wishing to speak on this item?
No, we do not, Madam Mayor.
Does any member of the council have any questions or comments at this time? Okay, if not, can I get a motion to award the construction contract as well as approve the construction contingency and declare CEQA exemption? Is there a second?
Second.
Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Councilmember Francis. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Tanaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Francis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Love? Yes. Mayor Serta?
Yes. Okay, we are at, let's see, before we move on to city manager remarks, I just want to let our visiting students know that you guys have been troopers. You stayed almost till 10 o'clock. If you need to get your sign-offs, Catherine can sign it because I'm sure you have school tomorrow. So you can stand up over here on the side and she can take care of that for you if you like. If not, we have a couple of more things to go over before we get out of here tonight. So, because some of you look like you're falling asleep. So, okay. Anyway, we're pirates, huh? Okay, so next we're going to move to council directors at this time. Does any member of the council have any directives? Okay, let's start on this end. Councilmember Love.
Since the last meeting, and regarding the unfortunate passing of the baby over on Marine Avenue, I spoke with Public Works and we talked about a couple of intersections that I would like to see some changes at. And so I have a directive asking Public Works to do a study to add a protected left turn lane on the corner of Marine and Normandy. If you ever go through that intersection in the morning around 8 a.m., between 7:30 and 9 work hours, the traffic over there is ridiculous. You have the left turn lane backing up into the regular traffic lane, which tends to back up down to almost the post office. And then you have drivers driving northbound on Normandy, making left turns into the post office parking lot. And so if I can get a second to ask Public Works to do the study to see what the cost would be to add a protected left turn lane on Normandy and Marine.
Okay, is there a second?
Well, I had a question about the northbound Normandy left turn lane into westbound Marine?
Yes.
Okay, and because they're backing up into the post office parking lot by El Pollo Loco, right?
The traffic in that intersection, and I've passed that intersection several times in the morning, and it can get a bit crazy. Right. You have a long line waiting to make that left turn, which then causes cars to run the red light to catch the left turn. And then that traffic in that left lane backs all the way up sometimes to the post office. And then you have traffic going northbound and people making left turns into either the El Pollo Loco parking lot or the post office parking lot. So to help expedite that traffic and that left turn, if we can get a protected left turn signal there, would definitely help the city, help the quality of life in the city. And we need to do more to help prevent accidents like the tragedies that happen with the city, with the driving, and we need to do whatever we can to mitigate. And
okay,
he looked like he's having a problem.
No, I'm just. It's already 2 lanes, right? It's just only 2
It
lanes.
is a 2-lane,
but
and then there's a left turn lane.
Yeah.
But the problem is that light.
No, I got you.
Okay.
I got you. I just wanted to make sure I understood the lane. So, yeah.
So is there a second?
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, so real quick, I need you to go through, state the purpose of the directive, the reason why it's warranted, and the ways it'll directly benefit the city.
The purpose of the directive is to improve our streets. The reason why the directive is warranted is to make our streets a safer place. How it will benefit the city is improve the quality of life.
Okay, all right, you got that? Okay, are there any other directives at this time? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In regards to public safety initiatives, I have a directive in regards to a financial analysis of potential crossing guard support for a school year, for 1 school year, for the elementary schools. I think we got 4 middle schools. Well, we got continuation schools too. Yeah, for the schools within Gardena city limits. And the directive to determine what the cost benefit is for that. Directive is warranted for a child pedestrian awareness and safety. And again, promote our public safety initiative. But we need to see how much it costs to have crossing guards at all the schools for just one year.
Mayor Pro Tem, to clarify, all schools within Gardena, public and private?
Yeah, I guess they're school children, yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
Although high schools, they should be able to cross the street, but let's add them in there too.
Might as well throw in everybody else. So
all schools, irrespective of the grade year and
All
irrespective
schools,
of
yeah.
public or private.
Okay, so the purpose was, there's a second.
The purpose just to determine what the total cost would be.
Okay, the reason why it's
I warranted child pedestrian safety and awareness.
Got that? And ways it'll direct benefit?
Just again, for us to promote our public safety initiatives.
Okay, motion is made by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Francis.
I have one more.
Are we limited?
Oh, that's right. We're doing one at a time. That's right. My bad.
Yeah, save it for your next
I'm gonna
meeting.
save it for the next one.
Any
My
other
bad.
directors at this time? Do you have one? Yes? No? Okay. Okay.
I can wait.
No, it's in your thing. No more than 1 directive.
Okay. Okay. So next we have city manager remarks regarding our previous directives and council items.
Mayor, sir, the members of the City Council, I have one update. This is a memo that was sent to all City Council members. This is in response to the directive by Mayor Pro Tem regarding the South Bay COG Measure H funding, which is about $2.8 million, and the status of that. That was sent over to City Council, and I believe that ends my report.
Okay, thank you. So next up, we're going to begin our council remarks with Councilmember Tanaka.
Well, there's a lot of stuff since our last meeting. Attended Bobby Rosales' promotion to sergeant, well-deserved, great promotion. Attended our COG board meeting. There was a couple of things on here. There's a proposal coming to raise, possibly raise dues for the COG. We have our local travel network, some new cities that will be implementing that program. Carson and Hawthorne, I believe, are the next two. We have our General Assembly coming, and Councilmember Henderson is actually the MC of that event, and we'll be discussing and looking at AI as it affects everything right now. We just got a confirmation that Google and one of the other tech companies is coming to do a presentation for us at that General Assembly. So if you would like to attend, just go to the COG's website and you can register. I think that's kind of the gist of the COG meeting. Attended the Tokyo Central main store on Artesia. They had a soft opening of a new sushi restaurant on their second floor. That was quite an event. I think that's one good project I think that market's doing right now to attract not only lunch people, but business to the market. Attended the South Bay Legislative Meet and Greet at Cal State University Dominguez Hills. Some of the politicians that were there were Tina McKinnon, Elmer Succi, Steve Bradford, Mike Gibson. They all kind of took about a 5-6 minute presentation on the things that they have accomplished and are working on. Attended the Orchid show at the Nakaoka. A little bit smaller this year, but a lot of really great orchids. Attended Sarah High School's second annual tribute to Women of Sarah, and it was apropos because it's International Women's Day. So happy Women's Day to all those, because you guys are important to us. Attended the memorial service of Mayor Bill Brand at Redondo Union High. That was an awesome tribute to a mayor that we lost. Janice Hahn, Ben Allen, Elmer Succi, and others were there to present their memories of a really wonderful mayor. Attended RCC's closed session meeting, discussed some issues. I was the chair of the Homeless Task Force meeting for the COG. Attended Officer Pete Graffale's retirement ceremony and celebration. He had that celebration here, and then he did an actual party at the Oaks. So it was quite an event. Also attended the League of California Cities LA Division meeting. The mayor talked about retail theft. They actually had representatives from LASD and LAPD and explained that there is a huge task force right now entailing those two major departments. I think we're involved in it. Torrance and some other cities that they're putting together this task force because it not only affects LA County, it's pretty much all over the place. And they're going up and down the state and some other states outside of our jurisdiction. So it's a big deal, and they are making arrests. They showed us a few of the major arrests they've made. They're working on the offenses that actually take some of this stuff and resell it. So yes, it is coming, Madam Mayor. Attended the G-Trans bus rodeo. I always have fun watching that because it's an intense day of watching bus drivers try to do their best to move on to the next session, the next division rodeos. I think Gardena did pretty well, but I did see some Torrance, and I think Montebello did pretty well. So it was a great day. Thanks, Ernie. Attended our COG steering committee meeting, and we discussed some issues with our new budget coming up. So with that being done, I attended Rolling Hills City Council meeting last night, representing the COG on a council agenda item, and presented some information. And with that, Madam Mayor, ends my report.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Councilmember Love.
Since our last meeting, I attended a Black History event at the Lincoln Hotel in West Hollywood, sponsored by 1580 AM Talk Radio, KBLA, where the famous Cornel West was the guest speaker. I also attended the Ladies of Sarah annual brunch, as well as attending the Tacos and Taxes with Senator Bradford. I caught the tail end of the G-Trans bus rodeo event. Ernie, I'm still trying to learn who won. Oh, never mind. Okay. And then the last thing I did, I had a meeting with a teacher from Perry High after that reached out to me after the incident that happened on Friday, and we talked about some of the disturbing issues that's going on at Perry. And I will bring back at a later date some conversation, but I'm hoping that the city of Gardena can get involved with the schools in the city of Gardena, because from what I learned from some of these teachers today, that if somebody don't get involved, then we're headed down a terrible direction. That ends my report.
Okay, next up is Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since our last meeting, I attended the stamp unveiling and Black History program at Raleigh Park, our Gardena Mardi Gras event, the Waka Sukawa opening sushi place at Tokyo Central, the beauty pageant that was held at Nakioka Center, Ladies of Sarah women program was great. I did my business and community visits. I did attend G-Trans bus rodeo. I want to say Director Crespo, from what I was hearing, everybody loved us as a host city, and the program was great, and the snacks was great, and the food was great, and everybody loved how organized it was. So please pass that on to staff. I also want to congratulate, although all the votes aren't in yet, but congratulate my colleague, Councilwoman Paulette Francis, and myself. It seems that the voters have given us another opportunity to continue to do some work. So I want to thank the community for our support as we move forward to keep moving Gardena forward. It means a lot to get a final term, so that means there's more work that's got to be done, and folks want to see us do it. So I want to make sure that we stay committed to positivity. I want to thank all the candidates that were in the race. There was not a lot of shenanigans and dirty pool among the candidates. Everybody ran a well-respected race. Folks were respectful in the candidates' forums, and that's important because it does highlight who we are as a city to other cities and to staff in our community. That, again, we're hard on the issues, but we try to maintain civility amongst ourselves as we all want to push the visions that we envision for our city with the help of the community, working those levers through city staff. So again, I want to say congratulations, Councilwoman Francis. And again, to all the candidates that ran, good races and everything. And there'll be other times to hear what your visions are and everything. And again, I'm humbled and honored to be granted a final term for the Gardena City Council. So I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues moving forward. Madam Mayor, so ends my report.
Okay, and next up is myself. Since the last council meeting, attended a couple of different things. One, the stamp unveiling for Constance Baker Motley. Also, the promotion ceremony for Bobby Rosales to now Sergeant, which was great. Also, my monthly CCGA meeting, sanitation meeting, as well as along with Mayor Pro Tem, the Miss LA County, Miss Culver City, Miss LA City. It was like 7 different pageants in one, but we brought greetings from the city of Gardena, and so it was a great event. Girls had amazing speeches and talents. I mean, it was kind of like, watching the Miss America pageant here. These girls were really on it. And so it was really great to kind of see that and witness it. It was really long, a lot of contestants, but nevertheless, I was happy that we were able to host it. Also, I too got a chance to attend the grand opening of Waka Sakura, I think that's what it was. Great food. Definitely want to encourage people to go there. Great new restaurant, and as always, love doing those grand openings for our community because that's what keeps our community moving forward. Also attended a community meeting with one of our community advocates for homelessness, Mr. Dave Matthews, in the unincorporated area. And what was a little different about this meeting here is generally we meet with a lot of the business owners in the unincorporated area, and even though we don't really have any jurisdiction in that area, offering whatever support we can. I was asked my colleagues from neighboring cities, Mayor of Compton, Mayor of Carson, if they would come and join me in this, and just seeing the work that's being done in the unincorporated areas. And we're all looking out for our cities to make sure that some of the problems that are going on maybe there that it stays out of our community, and offering any help and suggestions that we can to those communities. But I just take my hat off to community advocate Dave Matthews, because I get these weekly phone calls saying, hey, we were able to talk, 5 people into turning their RVs in and to get them into permanent housing. And sometimes it takes that just one RV at a time, one step at a time. And so to do the best we can. And, interestingly enough, a lot of people may not realize this, but now, because that area is not being maintained, I think the proper way it should be maintained, is that you now have companies dumping their trash in that area. And I've seen pictures that have been sent to me, drone footage, where they're dumping like half a block, just dumping all their construction stuff there. And it's really unfortunate and not fair because this area isn't, being policed or maintained, by government there. And so as a result, believe it or not, our community activist Dave Matthews has actually even gotten the homeless people to help him clean it up because they don't want that area to look like that. So, again, I take my hats off to residents who are getting out there and trying to get something done. So, I always try to, give our support, and I was very fortunate that the mayors came with me to that meeting to just share our support and to help out those business owners in any way we could. Also, I attended the Lions Club International. I was pretty elated to be honored by their club, along with many other people who were being recognized from all the different Lions clubs in the California area. And they had a great event for us at the Sheraton over in Universal City. A lot of fun, and it was just really nice. And I want to thank the Brisano sisters, as well as the Lions Club, for just nominating me for that position. So it was a lot of fun. I also attended the retirement celebration for Officer Peter Grafeo. It was a really nice ceremony that was held here at City Hall, as well as the actual retirement party later on. A lot of fun. And then I also attended the birthday party for Miss Rebecca Conley, who turned 100 years old on this last week, and she had her celebration at one of our Gardena events here, and it was just really nice to be there and present a proclamation to somebody within our community turning 100 years old, and was born in 1924. So really nice. Lady had all of her, she was sharp and And, so I was happy to just bring greetings from our city and do that. And then lastly, I didn't get a chance to talk to the family members, but I did visit the vigil for the little boy that was killed in the accident on Marine, and talk with friends of the family. And, such a sad thing that occurred. But, if nothing else, just want to make sure the public knows that we did catch the guy. And so I know for, a while people were like, hope this person gets caught. And I'm happy to say that he was caught. And I just hope that he gets fully prosecuted for the crimes of killing this poor innocent little boy who was 4, and he would have been 5 this month. So with that ends my report. And next up is Councilmember Francis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since our last council meeting, I attended the Taxes and Tacos hosted by Senator Steve Bradford, and I understand that this was they had about 200 folks that had their taxes done. This was the largest one yet. I didn't get to the entire G-Trans rodeo, kind of at the end, but as always, it seemed like it was a great event, and everybody had a great time, and there was some friendly competition from the other municipalities, but G-Trans, we still got the best looking buses. I just have to say that, and we got the best drivers, so no matter how it turned out, G-Trans, #1. And so thank you for inviting me. I also attended a candlelight dinner for the senior Mardi Gras. That was a lot of fun. I attended a Girl Boss workshop, and a really neat thing about this was that it showcased different career opportunities that young women aren't normally aware of, such as welding or programming or just a whole wealth of opportunities as far as furthering their education. It was a great event. I hope we get to do that again. I also attended the Black History Month program hosted by the New Earth Christian Church. It's a church on Zoom. The pastor is Pastor Larry Dozier, and that was where they had the stamp unveiling, and that was very nice. And also, I attended the Women of Sarah tribute for the Women of Sarah High School, Young Women of Sarah High School, and that was a very nice event. Also, I attended a candidates forum that was hosted by the Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and that was a good event. And as you all know, I congratulate Mayor Pro Tem Mark Hennison on his successful reelection, and thank you for the congratulations as well. And so I've been busy talking with people during the past month or so. But, one of the really neat things about this, I get to talk to people that I've never had to talk to, because hi, this is Councilmember Francis. They say, who are you? So I got to meet some people that, although I'm the council member, didn't know me. I got some really great ideas. And what I learned is that our residents, our neighbors, are really concerned about our city and what's going on. And they really are interested. But my plan is to try and find a way to reach out to more of them, to get folks involved, to let them know what's going on in our city. And also, so that was really a good thing. And so I'm glad I had an opportunity. I've just got to figure out a way to talk to more people more often. And that's going to be one of my goals during these next 3 or 4 years. I also want to thank everyone that came out and supported my reelection. I really appreciate you, and I thank you for another opportunity to serve. And for me, that's all it's about, is being a chance to serve the city I live in, not only I live in, I love as well. And let's see, and again, I know that there's a lot of scary things going on. You watch the news, and there's a lot of bad things happening, and news report, negativity. But I do want you to know that there's still a lot of good in our city, there's still a lot of good in our community, and don't give up. Keep the faith, because better days are coming. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. So a couple of quick announcements here. So we do have a couple of events happening. The Alzheimer's disease research update, which will be Thursday, March the 14th from 3 to 4 p.m., and that will be at the Nakoka Community Center. Registration is required, so please call City Hall at 310-217-9552. We also have our Too Toxic to Trash event happening here in our city. It's a free household hazardous and e-waste drive-through collection event. That will be Saturday, March the 16th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Arthur Johnson Park. We also have our semi-annual cleanup event, one day only. And this is where our trash company will be accepting things that can be safely handled by two people: furniture, appliances, yard waste that is bagged, and even wood, some electronic waste, and televisions and computers. So if your normal trash day is on a Monday, this will be on, your pickup day will be March 16th. If it's on a Tuesday, your cleanup day will be March 23rd. And if your trash day is on Wednesday, it'll be March 30th. If it's Thursday, it will be April 6th. And if it's Friday, it will be April the 13th. If you have any questions, you can call Waste Resources at 888-467-7600. We do ask everybody to please have your items out on the curb by 6 a.m. adjacent to the street curb. And this is free for all of our Gardena residential customers. We also have our 48th annual Koi Show that's happening March 16th and 17th. That will be at City Hall. That will be Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We have our Spring Equinox event. That will be Sunday, March the 17th at Johnson Park. And this will be the Willows Wetland Preserve. Will be open for self-guided strolls, explore the Gardena's very own vernal wetland, and learn more about the native plants and animals. And Sunday, March 17th. We also have our Coffee with a Cop, which will be Wednesday, March the 20th from 10 a.m. to 11:30. That will be at Ladybug Cafe, which is off of 159th and Western. We have our State of the City coming up on Thursday, March 21st. The meet, greet, and eat part will be at 6 p.m. and then at 7 p.m. the program will happen, and that too will be at the Naco Community Center. We also have our City of Gardena, our famous casino night, Friday, March the 22nd from 5:30 to 9:30. Let's see, they have different prices for admission packages that include appetizers, chips, and all sorts of fun things where you can play blackjack, craps, money wheel, roulette, and all the sorts here. And let's see, again, that will be Friday, March the 22nd from 5:30 to 9:30. We also have Kids Night Out, where parents can enjoy some time off while your child enjoys a night of hockey, as well as special experiences before the game. This will be where your kids can go to a free Kings game. Oh, I get it. Kids Night Out, Kings game. Okay. Saturday, March the 23rd from 3:15 is the drop-off time, and you can pick your kid up at 10. The ages that are available to attend this is 5 to 17, and it's $30 per person, and that includes admission and transportation. So if you like more information, you can register at www.cityofgardena.org/events. Okay, so those are all of your events. We do have one remembrance tonight. So tonight we're going to adjourn in memory of Mr. Matt King, who was 85 years of age and a longtime Gardena resident, as well as a member of the Kashmir Gatekeepers Network for 26 years. We're also going to move on to our adjournment here. The Gardena City Council will adjourn to our closed session portion of our City Council meeting at 7 p.m., followed by our regular City Council meeting at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, March 26, 2024. So at this time, we are adjourned.